It's the cold hard truth. Everyone really want to know what's going on with her show. Just get on the air and you will know it's Sandra. The queen of the mile road is here, helping people from everywhere. Get on the phone and you will hear Sandra. Now she will tell you how it goes, but don't you ever step on her toes, 'cause you will hear the cold hard truth from Sandra. They say she's the hero in town, helping people from all around. You get a call, your money is found, it's Sandra. Some will call her late at night just to say that there is a fight, and she will not just leave it alone. She'll get up and call on the phone, and when politics starts on her show, everyone really wants to know the way the things will really go with Sandra. Some will start to criticize, get on the show and tell pure lies, but someday we'll realize it's Sandra. And when they start to argue again, she'll pull the heads to the wind, and soon you will be a friend of Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. Every day, everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day, everyone got to hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day, everyone got to hear from Sandra.
Good morning, the beautiful people of the Cayman Islands. How is everyone doing? Welcome to another edition of Ministry Matters, right here on let me say that again, right here on Cayman Mall Road and CMR TV. I'm your host, Auntie Sandy, and this is a platform where we sit down directly with ministers and senior government officials to discuss the issues, the policies, the plans, and decisions that impact your daily lives. The purpose of Ministry Matters is pretty simple. We want the public to have a better understanding of what is happening within the various ministries of government, directly from the individuals who carry out the responsibility for those portfolios. Too often people hear the headlines or snippets online without fully understanding the wider context, the challenges, the priorities, and the reasoning behind decisions. This program is about creating that space for information, transparency, accountability, and public education. We appreciate the commitment from members of the government who've agreed to come on the platform and engage directly with the people of the Cayman Islands on matters that fall under their respective responsibilities. These conversations are important because you can, inform the public, and an informed public is an empowered public, folks. This morning, we're pleased to welcome the Honorable Rolston Anglin, Minister of Education and Training and Finance, who joins us to discuss several important matters that are currently falling under his ministerial remit. And we'll be asking about those key issues, initiatives, and policies affecting education and training in the Cayman Islands, and giving the public an opportunity to better understand what is happening within those. Minister Anglin, good morning to you, sir, and welcome to another edition of Ministry Matters.
Good morning, Sandra. It's good to be on the show as usual. We got lots of exciting things to talk about. I'm sure we'll get lots of comments that we'll need to respond to as well. and good morning to Cayman. And we certainly look for another riveting conversation where we can talk about important issues that face the people of the Cayman Islands and the progress and work of the ministry and the government overall.
Yes. One good thing I must say, you're becoming known as a minister who isn't, at the very minimum, afraid to come on and meet the people where they are and answer their questions. And so this is important. People love to have that level of access to their representatives. So we have a lot of ground to cover because you've been really busy. I mean, that's probably...
Absolutely.
That's probably an understatement. But so let's go through some of the things that have happened since we last spoke that I think are important for people to understand what they are and how they are intended to work. Let us start off with this recent announcement within Parliament about a retirement-focused baby bond and what that is.
So Sandra, are you hearing me fine? Because I just got a message saying that they're saying that I can't be heard well on radio. I'm not sure if something's happening on that end.
Radio. Okay. No, I mean, I can hear you. You are a little bit low, but I can hear you. So
Partly can't hear. It's very low and can't hear me at all. But I'm hearing you, and you're hearing me in studio.
Okay, so my internet just tripped out there, but I was gonna say that I can hear you okay.
Okay.
So let's keep an eye on that situation. We haven't had that complaint in a couple weeks now, so suspicious. But yeah, keep the voice up as much as you can, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we were gonna start off our discussion with the baby bond. So can we start there, talking about exactly what that is?
Absolutely, Sandra. The Caymanian baby bond was a private member's motion that was brought to Parliament by the member from Bordentown East, Mr. Dwayne Seymour, and it called on government to invest $5,000 per Caymanian child born effective the 1st of January 2027. I'm going to try one thing, Sandra, because I'm still getting the message. Let me try.
Okay.
Let me try another. Let me go back into my settings and see if.
Okay. All right. While you do that, we'll do a little bit of housekeeping in the background. So folks, just a reminder of the different platforms on which you can find us. Obviously, we've definitely got people listening to Bobo 103.1 FM. Let me just see. Yes, somebody else says that your volume is low for radio as well. Okay. So, still not hearing him. It's very, very low. Oh my goodness. So see what you can do. Through my ears, I'm hearing you okay, but obviously radio listeners are having some difficulty. Just try to increase it as much as you possibly can. Yes, I just want to, and I'll fiddle with some settings here in my end as well while we're at it. But I just want to remind the public that, we are also available on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and cmrtv.com, our website. So let's just see how we can, but we've got lots of people that listen on radio. Radio is still king here in the Cayman Islands. That's why we're working on our own radio station, because we want you guys to hear all of our amazing shows right there on the radio station. Let me just look at a few things. I want you guys to tell me if you hear any improvement, because I'll try tweaking a few things on my end as well in terms of audio. But it should be good. I try not to touch anything once it's working, All right. Try again, Minister. Let's hear if you're any louder. Let me just see. I'm going to increase. It doesn't make any sense for me to increase my audio levels if I'm sounding pretty good. So I'm not going to I'm not going to touch anything there, but let me just check your Chrome settings. But yeah, we should be. I'm going to increase it just a little bit here. All right, try speaking again, Minister. Let's see. I've tweaked one thing on my end as well. I'm not hearing you at all. Nope. That tweak did not work for me because now I can't hear you at all. All right, so let me put that back where that was. Yep. Can you hear me? No, I can't. I can't hear you. All right. So whatever you might have done, just undo. I think you muted yourself actually. So hit that unmute button. Looks like you muted yourself.
Did.
Okay.
So are people hearing me better now? Hoping that people can now.
Okay. I'm gonna make one change again because I didn't realize you were muted to see if that makes a difference. Just keep speaking for me.
Yeah, so the Cayman Baby Bond is a program that was initiated by a private member's motion for the member for Bordentown East, Mr. Dwayne Seymour, in Parliament. And it's to take effect the 1st of January, 2027. And so that program offers the government to really do some long-term planning now. That is something that's been needed for a long, long time. Apparently, I'm coming through clearly now. So that's good. Okay. So hopefully your messages are saying the same thing, Sandra. So this came forward, Sandra, as a private member's motion. It's one that it was easy for the government to accept because we've talked about this for a long time, but in a slightly different frame. We've talked about, and during the budget debate, I announced that during this term, one of the things that I wanted to do was to start a robust general reserve fund. And why is that important? It's important for the country to save. Just as a family saves and saves for a rainy day, it's awfully important for us as a country to do so that we can start to put that money away, invest it, and have returns on that investment so that if and when the government has emergencies like Hurricane Ivan, we're more resilient. We're more resilient financially. This achieves a similar goal, except it's down to now an individual. And so what we've been doing is we had to do the research. And Sandra, the numbers are quite interesting. The motion called for $5,000 to be invested. I've had to look at the budget, where we are, and determine what is going to be a sustainable amount that the government can afford to actually put aside in an individual investment account for each Caymanian child born. We've landed that we're going to be proposing to do somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000. Now that number doesn't sound like a lot, but if you use an average rate of return of 7%, which the Public Service Pension Board has easily achieved over the last decade, a $2,500 investment at birth at 7% results in a $203,182 annuity at age 65, which is where Cayman is in terms of what everyone wants as the normal retirement age. Now, Sandra, this is about planning for the long term. This is future looking, ensuring we're using data to drive decision making. And the data tell us that this could have a tremendously positive impact over the long term. We don't see this as an alternative to a pension and pension requirements. But what we do see it as a key supplement. Because if we make this investment now, imagine the hundreds of Caymanians, the thousands of Caymanians who are falling short of being able to survive on their pension who now have to go get their pension topped up and supplemented by the Department of Financial Assistance. This is a way for us to look to the future and say, what can we do today that are going to change outcomes tomorrow, outcomes for the next generation? And that's how government should be operating. Government can't continue to make short-term decisions and compromise the long term. The other thing that I made very clear is this is when we frame the legislation for this, it is going to be framed in a way that mirrors how pensions actually work.
So let me just pause you. Can I just pause you there for a second? Because I understand the concept, obviously, of taking money, setting it aside, and investing it. Most people, though, if you ask them if they're happy with how pensions work, I'm not sure that you would actually get a positive answer. So when you say that it's going to mirror how pensions work,
no, it's going to mirror how the public service pension.
Public service pension
works. In that, in one very key feature, there will be no hourly withdrawals. If you do the research, the UK abandoned something that was similar to this, except it had one serious flaw, in our opinion. It allowed early withdrawal. When you allow early withdrawal, it absolutely destroys the plan and destroys this as a long-term planning initiative. Because this is what we're doing, right? We're looking at life and saying, what are the gaps that we're currently seeing in society, and how can we remedy those gaps? And this is one key way to remedy that gap. I give you, and the data is astounding, right? If you take, for example, if you were to take that same investment and you allowed someone to withdraw early, the return is so much different. And so the data absolutely positively tells us that there is no way for us to do this other than a long-term investment. So let's give you an example. Let's just say that we had implemented the plan at $1,500. $1,500, if you access it at age 25, it would be valued somewhere between $5,000 and $7,000. $1,500 accessed at age 65, assuming an average annual return of 7%, would be $121,909. If you assume 8%, that same $1,500 would be $223,170. And so you see that the difference is stark when you are serious about planning for the long term and not trying to make decisions in the short term that sound nice and fancy and politically popular, but ultimately don't have the impact that you want it to have. This has to be a hugely positive impact for Cayman and Caymanians. And so, Sandra, the other thing that we've obviously looked at the data around is what is the average number of live Caymanian births per year. And we've used we're using that data to come up with what is going to be ultimately the number that we choose. That work isn't complete yet, but as I said, if you look at the early analysis, it's looking like we will be pitching this somewhere around $2,500 to $3,000 per child. I said all this during the debate in Parliament. So this is just ensuring that we get the message out and people understand what it is we're looking to do, how it's going to work, and why it's going to be hugely beneficial. We will also have to change the Public Service Pension Act to allow them to manage another fund. To my mind and to the government's mind, this is only a net positive for them as an organization. While it's an additional fund that they'll have to manage, it does increase their assets under management. And generally speaking, the more assets under management you have, the greater the returns can be, because you can be much more strategic in your investment strategy.
All right. We got some questions. So the public service pension plan is one that over the years we have heard is simply not sustainable, right? And
No,
this
that's not
is
factual. No,
that's
let's stop
not
right there.
factual.
Not
Okay.
factual at all. The Public Service Pension Board and Plan
Uh-huh.
is extremely sustainable from the sense of their investment performance.
Right.
What has happened is, in the early days of our public service, we put Caymanians
Mm-hmm.
on what was called a defined benefit plan.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, we didn't say, how much do you contribute? How much do you earn? That's going to be what your account is going to accumulate to, which is a defined contribution plan. We said, irrespective of how much you put in, once you meet certain conditions, which was tenure in the civil service,
Mm-hmm.
you would get a certain benefit back. So the
Mm-hmm.
contract and the construct of how we contracted with civil servants is what causes an issue, not the plan and the investments that's in the plan, and not the
Okay.
performance of the plan. That is 110% inaccurate. All you got to do is go online and see the plan performance. That plan is one of the best performing pension plans. They do an absolutely outstanding job. Jewel Evans, Lindsay, and her team at the Public Service Pensions Board. What happens then, because of the fact that we structured pensions for decades in Cayman as a defined benefit to civil servants, that's a contract.
Mm-hmm.
That's a legally binding contract that the government signed up for. And so what we have to do on an annual basis is we have to fund what would be the unfunded liability. Because you see, Sandra, if to have executed that
Mm-hmm.
in the way it needed to have been, what government should have done back in the 70s, just as we're doing today, would have been to looked on and said, okay, we have X amount of civil servants. And this is stuff that an actuarial firm would have done.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have looked at the number of civil servants you had, the average age. What does the contract say for police, for example? I think it was 21 and 2/3 years for an average civil servant. Back then, I think it was 30 years. Now it's up to 40, I think the number is, to fully vest. Look at all the vesting criteria that's in in civil servants' contracts. Then make an actuarial determination of how much money needed to have been put in that fund immediately so that it could grow over time and be able to pay back those defined benefits that you are contractually binding yourself to make to civil servants. That didn't happen in the early days, not to the level that it needed to. That's the issue that you're hearing about, right? So it's a legal contractual arrangement, not the performance. The performance has been absolutely outstanding. Thank God for the performance. Actually, that performance, that positive and good performance of the Public Service Pension Board's funds that it oversees, is what causes government to not have to top up as much as we ordinarily would have. Trust me, if that plan was performing like some of the other plans around the world, then we would have to fund a lot more on an annual basis. So that's what government has to fund on an annual basis, is ensuring we can meet our legal obligation, because we signed up civil servants right up until, I think, defined benefit ceased somewhere around 2001, 2002. But up until then, all incoming civil servants were put on a defined benefit contract. And now we have to pay out the amounts, because when you look at the benefit that's defined in their contract, we've never put in enough to sustain the withdrawals as people then retire.
Okay. Yep. Better. Much better to understand the point here.
Mhm.
So, question then, as it relates to El Rey says here, how are you going to define? Let me just pull up his question. El Rey, define the Caymanian child that qualifies for this bond.
So that's a very good question, and that's part of what the work that we're doing in the background to ensure that when we roll this out, we've really dotted all our I's and crossed all of our T's. So one of the things that we have been grappling with is how do we ensure we can start to validate more Caymanians at the time of birth.
Mm-hmm.
One of the real frustrations we have right now, for example, is when a child comes to go to apply for a scholarship, they didn't have to write to immigration to get confirmed as a Caymanian. And that's how my ministry then relies on that as proof that the young person is eligible for a scholarship in the first instance. Because government was already going down the road of defining Caymanians when you're born. And the other thing that we're working with and toward is getting that placed on people's birth certificates so that in the future you can simply get your birth certificate to prove whether you're Caymanian at the time of your birth. Now there will then have to be a process for those persons who were born here, not Caymanian at the time of their birth, who then acquire Caymanian status to then have their records updated. But that would then be a process of having it granted through a board. Once it's granted through a board, then you can have your record updated. That's sort of the big picture frame as to how government sees us administering this in the long term. In the short term, we are working along. We're going to start a piece of work along with immigration to ensure that we're working with between immigration, HSA, and ensuring that every time a child is born from 1 January, we're going to deem and determine whether they Caymanian or not when they're born. That's the only way for us to do this. And that's going to be a net positive, right? Because that solves another vexing issue that Caymanians have had. Because I can tell you there's lots of Caymanians that as we would say, feel away about having to write immigration to get a letter to say that you're Caymanian before applying for a scholarship.
All right. Good question there, El Rey. See that
Absolutely.
he's paying attention this morning. Aisle 2025 says you can't plan for retirement if you're drowning today. You should be able to withdraw from your pension fund for private and public employees for reasons like your mortgage payments, etc. Can you explain, Rolston? Because I don't know, people are struggling with still understanding what a pension is. So they think that a pension is some sort of a savings account where even if they're not contributing to it, once there's money there, they can withdraw. So what you just said at the onset of this discussion is that early withdrawal defeats the purpose, is what I heard, of even having a fund of this nature. So early withdrawal to pay off mortgages. Is that a good idea?
Of course, it's not a good idea. It's sacrificing the long term for the short term. This is going to be an individual account so that we can finally plan long term for Caymanians. We have had at various points in time, the allowance for persons to withdraw from their pension account for things like the deposit on their home. And then they have to reinvest that money or recontribute that money to their pension plan. And a lien is actually put on their property so that they can't transfer it when that happens. And that mechanism is something that people will have differing views on. I understand that it can have a positive view on home ownership, especially initial home ownership. And I see that is something that is a net positive. What would be, in my mind, something that would also assist in this is if pension plans were to really promote what is called AVCs, additional voluntary contributions, more. because you'd be surprised if you're a young person and you're saying to yourself, look, I'm 25 years old. Very few people achieve home ownership anywhere around this planet at 25. That's extremely young. Um, Typically, the average human being, you go to work, you go to university, you start your career, and by the time you're getting around 30 is when you're financially stable enough to achieve home ownership into your 30s. What I would encourage Caymanians to do is work along with their pension plans and contribute additional voluntary contributions, which are separate and apart from your mean pension. And if you get used to doing it, if you get used to simply putting that 5% aside, it's forced savings. What it is forced savings, and instead of putting it in a bank where you could be tempted to use it, you're getting it professionally managed, and you would then enjoy a better return than just sticking it in the bank. And so then you could leave your mean pension alone and use that AVC or additional voluntary contribution for things like your deposit or a rainy day. Something happens and you need to then ensure that you can pay down debt that may be accumulating. So I get the comment, and certainly that could be the comment at all points in time, right? If we apply that comment at all points in time, what we're basically saying is never ever have any system at all that is structured and for your retirement, and always just allow people to be able to go in and raid their pension account at any point in time because of quote unquote struggles. What that does is it causes people to also not necessarily behave as responsibly as they should. Because the fact is, a lot of times it's about priorities. It's about priorities. Do you need a brand new car?
Right.
Do you need to go out and get a brand new car? Do you need to do a lot of other things that happens in life? And listen, every one of us, we have to make choices. I get it. Things happen in life. That's just a reality of it. But we also know that there's lots of times where we as humans don't necessarily behave around our finances the way we ought to. And it's quite tempting to simply say, I'm going to take that trip to Miami this weekend. And you may very absolutely not need to, because things are good today, versus saving and saying, you know what, let me ensure I have a rainy day fund just in case things go wrong, just in case we need it for an unforeseen event in the future. So let me get back to the focus of this. This is about having a tremendously positive impact long term. This is about us finally as a country having that discipline to say, you know what, we have to save for that rainy day. Let me tell you the other thing that has happened, Sandra, and this ties right on to that comment, and it is unfortunately a behavior that has shown up, manifested itself in government. I've had a saying a long time. A lot of times, the results of government is a microcosm of the society. Because after all, who are the 19 of us? The 19 of us are coming from the very society that we go to get votes from and seek to govern. And so let me give an example of what that sort of behavior leads to. Coming out of the financial crisis of 2008, when our public finances were in shambles because of the world events, government revenue had plummeted, inward investment had plummeted, financial services were flat and struggling. And so back then, we had to go to the UK to just get our budgets approved. We were running deficits, not because we wanted to, not strategically. We were running deficits because that simply was the position the country was in at the time. We managed to put in place 2 significant revenue packages. The largest one was the largest in the history of the country at the time. Back then, it was said, oh, we're going to kill the goose that lays the golden egg. Well, the truth is we did our research, we executed well. We signed a number of development agreements, which today people will curse. They'll curse today because now they got the benefit of Cayman coming out of the wood, getting out of the woods. But back then, when we were struggling to get out of West Bay in terms of traffic, West Bay looked very similar to the eastern districts. The world was very different. We had to make a number of tough choices. But it wound up that by about 2015, as the world has recovered and Cayman had recovered, we saw that we had right-sized public finances and we were producing historic surpluses. We don't have any general reserve fund that has a material balance in it that we can look at ourselves and say, if we have another Hurricane Ivan tomorrow, here is $500 million that we got set aside that we can survive as a country. It is that behavior of always saying, oh, we got the money, let's find something to spend it on. And that's what we did. That's what we did. I demitted government 12 years ago, $600 million budget. Now it's $600 million budget. That was 1.4 billion. Yeah. In 12 years. Now, yes, the population has grown, but it's not grown to that magnitude. The fact is, we have lacked fiscal discipline. We've lacked thinking strategically and long term and being disciplined about it. I can tell the world, this is going, God's willing, we are going to move and create this for our future. And there will not be any early withdrawals. We are going to make this legislation future-proof. We're going to make it very tight. And in fact, Parliament even agreed that what we would do around this, like all these other funds, there would be no capacity for parliamentary intervention. That's why I said we're going to want to craft that legislation so that when these funds are placed with the Public Service Pension Board to manage, it will be there for when, God's willing, when these children are ready to retire, there'll be something there in addition to what their pension is. If we don't have the discipline to make decisions today that we can then project out and say, this is what the future will look like, then why are we here as adults? We are stewards, not just to ensure that we are comfortable and survive today, but what can we do to make life better? This is about making life better for children that aren't even born yet, Sandra. If that isn't future planning, if that isn't looking strategically and ensuring that we're trying to build the best, most resilient Cayman, then tell me what is.
Okay. A few questions that are coming in. We have a listener to the program who says that they recall there was some discussion some time ago about allowing people to make additional voluntary contributions to the Public Service Pensions Board pension fund. Has that been done?
I don't know. I'll have to ask that question.
Okay. All right. All right, folks. Good start here. Thank you guys so much for your contributions. Good morning, Damaris. And El Rey says, yes, pensions require discipline and patience to work. And I'm so glad when the minister was talking about, which basically is a principle of compounding. You can't compound any degree of savings if you keep touching it. That's right. That kind of defeats the purpose. And we talk about that here on the program all the time. And, we'll continue to try to push for more financial literacy, because that is really what it comes down to. All right. Thank you very, very much. Let me just see if there's any other questions here in relation to this. Isle says it's a parent's responsibility to plan for their kids. Quit encouraging everyone to have kids. Legalize abortion. It should be a tough, long decision to have children. So poor people shouldn't be having kids. The country is such a welfare state, Isle 2025 goes on to say. And also says that your house is a long-term investment. It's easy to not see the need when you're paid handsomely. So how do you respond to those comments?
Sandra, at the end of the day, we're going to say, we're really going to be serious today and say that the average human being, not just in Cayman, that the average human being, governments should take a hands-off approach and say, average human being, you plan for your children's future, and there's going to be no social safety nets in the future. You become unemployed, tough. You can't afford medical care, go home and die. Is that the answer? Because it isn't. It isn't, and that's not how governance works or ought to work. The fact is, yes, parents should be more responsible, but guess what? Government got to deal with the reality, and government got to deal with people's financial reality. So on the one hand, the author is saying people are struggling and might not be able to pay their mortgage, so let them raise their pensions. But those same people are now going to plan for their kids' future and be able to have those children ready for the future and invest. So if they're investing, if they have enough money to invest for their children's future, then I would think that they would have enough money to pay their pay their mortgage. Look, when it comes to discrete things like that, we are going to continue to have that natural friction for some individual circumstances. And right now in private sector, you have some of that. Public sector is not allowed. In the public sector, there's been a very disciplined public service pension board has been very strong on its view and its insistence that it must be left to be independent. Otherwise, we truly will bankrupt this country. The amount of money that we have to pay in right now, Sandra, to top up, to ensure we can meet our obligations under the defined benefit plan. I can tell you, if without fear of contradiction, if we had allowed the Public Service Pension Board Fund to have been raided, the mess we would be in financially right now. Caymanians, you think right now when we talk about the number of items that's duty free, we would have to be taxing everything and every single food stuff, and heavily. There is discipline that's required around this area, Sandra, and we just and I think the point has been made. As far as I'm concerned, the point has been made. It is going to be about long-term planning, long-term fiscal discipline in this plan. One thing that I must say, and it is the fact that the work that the Ministry of Lands have done in terms of revamping the whole mortgage process when foreclosure process is something that is hugely positive. We have to talk about that another day, though, Sandra. But all of the mechanisms that's being put in place now to right size that that occurrence, it truly had become much too easy, and there wasn't enough checks and balances when it came to foreclosing. But that, as I said, that's a story for another day. We have some other exciting stuff to talk about. I'm not sure which one you're looking to talk about.
One more quick question. Myrta Dilbert says, can you ask the minister if they'll consider extending this to children under the age of 3 as of January 2027?
We just don't have that amount of funding.
Okay.
We wouldn't. I mean, why 3? Why not 4? Why not 5? Why not 6? Why not 1? The fact is, sure, I would love to extend it to every single Caymanian, but the budget as a country, we can only afford so much right now. This was not planned at all during the creation of this budget, but as a government, we see it as such a priority that we are moving forward and going to fund it out of what would be the projected surplus for 2027. So no, I mean, unfortunately, we simply can't continue to add, because there would be no magic number that you could satisfy people with. And I think saying that it's a new brand policy coming into effect easy, you don't have to then try to justify one child over another child that is born, right? Because the fact is, you pick a number and somebody's going to come and say, my child missed it by 1 day. That's not fair. My child was born on December 31st, so they missed it by 1 day. Somebody are going to say, my child was born December 15th. They missed it by 15 days. So it really comes down to the numbers. And we feel comfortable that this is now going to be a sustainable program going forward. We have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you so much for that. And as you rightfully just said, we have lots of other things. We're going to kind of be going back and forth between the different ministerial areas that the Honorable Rolston Anglin is responsible for, because he also has education and training. And there's been a lot, quite frankly, that has been happening within the education and training area, including some special news for Sir John A. Cumber School. So let's talk a little bit about what has happened there recently on a public holiday, no less. So I remember speaking to you, I think it was the Sunday, and let me just say this. Can I just say something? Rolston, you got a lot of detractors out there. And as we say in what year are we in? 2026, haters, and they're always going to have something negative to say no matter what you do. And when I say to them, I take people as I find them. And yes, there's some people, as the old folks would say, my spirit don't take to them in the world of politics, and it is what it is. But one thing I really respect about Rolston, and nobody is certainly perfect, and he's got his faults just like any other representative. One thing I really appreciate about you is your work ethic, right? I called you. I was actually on holiday, and I called the minister probably 7, 8 o'clock, maybe even later at night. And I said to him, because there was a certain member of your team on the holiday trip, and I said, I've got a member of your team here. You know what the minister was doing on a Sunday night after 8 o'clock? He didn't have his feet kicked up. He wasn't sitting there watching the latest episode of, I don't even know what Sunday shows are on, because I don't get to watch TV myself anymore. I wish. But he was there meeting. He said, I'm actually here meeting with my team now because we have an event tomorrow. And I said, tomorrow is a public holiday. You can't have an event on a public holiday. And he said, yeah. We're going to be at Sir John A. Cumber School doing this project. And I thought, really? So there they were on a Sunday night, him and his team huddled down, working diligently. And of course, his team is obviously working hard as well to make these things happen. And they were planning to go out on a public holiday to work.
Absolutely. And Sandra, when you truly enjoy what you're doing and you see that you're making a positive impact, it doesn't even feel like work, Sandra. And so this specific project, I gotta say, didn't feel like work at all. And how it came about is quite interesting. So a company by the name of Cox Automotive out of Atlanta, and you can Google them, large company, 30-something thousand employees. Every year, certain employees based on performance get recognized as part of the President's Circle. And in their President's Circle award, part of the award is to take those persons to a specific location. So they'll pick a location, all expenses paid trip. And so it's quite a robust program, right? I mean, so think of part of your bonus as being a trip. So that's quite cool. They choose different places to visit, but the ethos of this company is that wherever they go, they try to leave it better than they found it. So everywhere they go, they actually include a work day. So whilst you're being recognized for your achievements by the company, you have to give back. And they then interacted with the staff member at the Ritz-Carlton. I don't remember his last name, but his first name is Toby. And he then, in discussions, realized, wow, this is a huge opportunity. Let me see how I can try to connect the dots. And so he reached out to um, Inclusion Cayman, and Inclusion Cayman then looked around and said, what would be a hugely impactful project for this company to take on? And in the end, the decision was taken that due to the fact that Sir Johnny Cumber Primary School, a public primary school, already has 2 full ASD classes, autism spectrum disorder classes, on campus. Typically, those would be children that would be at Lighthouse at present. And so it had those 2 classes, and we have a number of other students that need learning support for additional and special education needs. It was the school was chosen, a proposal was given that we move from just having a sensory room, so that when children on the spectrum or with special and additional and emotional needs have outbursts. And they're going to happen. They're going to happen. They're going to happen every day, not with every child, but some child is going to have some deregulation during the day. And how do you get them regulated again? And sensory rooms are one of the key areas for allowing a child to become regulated again and be reintegrated back into class and not be disruptive. So we had a sensory room at Sir Johnny Cumber Primary School. And so the proposal was made to create a sensory garden so that all of the ASD class students and students that have additional and special education needs who need to have access to that space during the day. During the day, to provide that place of love and calm that can get them regulated again and ensure that the running of the school is so much smoother. And so Cox agreed. They agreed to a $200,000 donation. The project, though, wound up such that, given the size of the school and the size of the garden, there simply wasn't enough work. And so, because they had 300 employees, by the way, that's what I forgot to mention, it's 300 employees were being recognized. The president of the company said, well, we can't get the 5 hours work that I want all of my club presidents, circle winners to have to commit to as part of our trip. And so the principal, Miss Giovanna Wright, looked on and said, fine, if you want more stuff done, we'll be happy to accommodate you. And so we then partnered with the Department of Education Services and got a large number of supplies. And so the staff of Cox were on campus, not just putting the finishing touches to the sensory garden, but also helping with a range of projects around the school that day. A lot of them were painting, some areas that needed, as we would say, a fresh coat of paint. And so it was an absolutely outstanding day to witness, to see a company who, first of all, so let's connect all these dots, Sandra. Hugely positive impact on tourism. 300 plus guests at one of our hotels. Then, so that in and of itself is a part of the market we've been appealing to for years. That group traffic, those group visitors. Layered on top of that, we have a company whose ethos is to give back and have an impact in the communities that they visit for those days. And we then enjoy not just a beautiful sensory garden and an important space at the Sir John A. Cumber Primary School that is going to be a huge positive net benefit to how the school operates. But on top of that, we got an average of around 5 hours of community service across 300 people. So we basically got about 1,500 man hours of free labor, volunteer labor. So that wound up being an absolutely outstanding day, an extremely exciting day. Um, it was so good to see so many parents come out, whose children have additional special education needs, and parents on the PTA who came out and volunteered and supported the projects as well. And what we did was we assigned staff members to each of the other mini projects that we did across the campus, and they then led the team from um, Cox Automotive, and then lots and lots of other work got done on campus again. But the showcase is the sensory garden that's been created at the Sir John A. Cumber Primary School. And so hugely exciting news, but it's a true testament to public and private coming together to be able to create impact on our schools. So I really want to thank the Ritz-Carlton and Toby and Inclusion, Cayman, of course, the staff and leadership at Sir John A. Cumber Primary School, and Cox Automotive for making this come through. And that's the reason it was done on the public holiday. And the timing was great because no kids were on campus, right? So not having children on campus made this absolutely perfect.
Well, we do have a little video snippet here of this day, and I want to go ahead and share that with our listeners, as we do here in the program. We like to get real-time footage. So have a look at this, folks. Looked like it was a really productive day. All right, folks. So Sir John A. Cumber School has a lot going on again. So are they then the only government school that have the inclusion of two of the autism specific classes within the school? Is this kind of like a pilot program, you'd say?
Well, more than a pilot. I mean, it is about how we've had to manage across the system, because for a number of years now, we've been out of space at the Lighthouse School. And so it has been, how does government look at all of our school plan, look at all of our leadership teams, and see how we can best manage and deliver the highest quality of provision to our students, especially our students with additional and special education needs. I'm certainly hoping over this term that we're going to be able to start the process of expanding the provisioning for students who qualify for Lighthouse School, and ensure that we're doing a better job with that, because not only are students at these two autism spectrum disorder classes at Sir John A. Cumber Primary School, but we also have a number of students at private institutions at present, simply because we don't have the space at Lighthouse School. And this is something that has been happening now for a good number of years. And certainly we need to arrest that issue and get the expansion so that we can bring all of those services back in-house.
All right. Someone says, shameless plug here this morning. The inspiration for the garden came from my baby sister, Kayla Manderson. Go, Kayla. Go, Kayla. All right. We've got a caller.
Absolutely. I thank the author for that message. That's right. It's Miss Kayla Manderson, Special Education Needs Coordinator. Pardon me.
Wait a minute, Minister. You guys snatched Kayla from Cayman Prep? Wow.
Kayla Manderson, Special Education Needs Coordinator at the Sir John A. Cumber Primary School, is an absolutely outstanding young leader in our system. And the author's quite right. I did need to shout her out individually because she certainly was the lead behind this project. And you see the sign there. Principal Wright certainly knows how to not only lead her team, inspire her team, but recognize her team. And you see it there on the sign. So thank you, author. When you're on these shows, sometimes you don't get to follow all the notes that's been provided for you. But so yes, special shout out and congratulations to Kayla and the outstanding work that she's doing for our system, for our children, and for the Sir John A. Cumber Primary School.
I had no idea that she was with government. I think that's a wonderful addition. All right, let's go ahead and take a call. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Morning, Aunt Sandy. Morning, Mr. Rolston.
Morning, Johan.
How's it going? It's Johan Moxham.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Just wanting to, been following the news like I always do, but since we got the minister online, just got a couple of questions for him. Won't have any speech or anything, just straight questions. First question is, Minister, in light of what has been reported, sorry, walking my dog. In light of what has been reported in the media about comments that you've made about monopolies and certain entities basically dominating industry, in particular hospitality, so on and so forth, how do you reconcile that position that you've taken today, considering the fact that when you were last a member of cabinet, you were an integral part of the negotiation of the Fort Cayman Investment Alliance? The funny thing about life or being in the modern age, there's something called the internet. So there's clips, there's footage, there's videos, there's articles, there's everything. But
I can answer that quite easily.
Okay, so
you've taken a robust position, and
we hadn't really gotten to that. We were coming to it, Johan, but we hadn't quite gotten there yet.
We're here now, though. So that's the first question. So fire away and let's hear that one.
All right. Let's back it up a little bit so that our listeners actually know what it is that we're talking about, because not everybody, like Johan, might be abreast of the news. So let's pause on education. There were other things under education that we did want to touch on, but let's pause that for a second. We posted an article yesterday, and I know other media have as well, that you made some statements recently in Parliament as it relates to antitrust legislation. You say that you're calling out monopolies, you are vowing to take some action. And so naturally, your critics looked at this with a sideward eye and said, hold on a second here. Is this the same Rolston Anglin who was part of, as this caller, as Johan says, part of the, what was it called? What's the name of the alliance
Fort
again?
Cayman Investment Alliance.
Fort Cayman Investment Alliance.
It became the NRA agreement.
Right, which basically allowed the DART organization to take over the public beach, as they did, get access to their land to develop Kimpton and I guess the Indigo as well. And now you are talking. Not the Indigo?
No, we can give the history. We can give the history of it.
Right. So the basic question I think here is, you have said, And I'm going to be very, very honest with you. When I saw this article come up yesterday, I myself have some questions because you have said that DART has a monopoly on hotels, which actually is not factually correct if you look at the...
I didn't say he has a monopoly.
Okay.
I said we don't want to allow, we need to ensure that our economic development policies are such that we don't allow monopolies to pop up across the economy. That's what I said. I didn't say they have a monopoly. I said that, for example, if we don't take action now, the path that they're on could create a monopoly.
Okay. All right. Because one doesn't exist. But to Johan's point, So to Johan's point, how do you juxtapose your position? Because there are a lot of people asking this, where you were for the alliance and now you're,
The alliance has nothing to do with hotels. First of all, 15 years ago, we're almost, just 2026. So we're about 2 decades on. And the question is going to be a position I took 15, 16 years ago around economic recovery. The world, our budget was in shambles. The UK instituted something called the FFR, the Framework for Fiscal Responsibility. They then forced us to put it in legislation as a schedule to the Public Management and Finance Act. Those were the principles that we needed to operate under. They then said, for us to approve your budget, not only do you have to institute those principles, you now need to show us immediate tax dollars that are going to arrest these budget deficits in a relatively short period of time. We produced the budget, we produced the tax package that this country is now enjoying the benefit from. Funny how people pick up one thing, but then they don't pick up all that happened back then. Then, on top of that, you need to show us what are you going to be doing economically that is different, that's going to generate activity so that we, the UK, can feel comfortable that this economy is going to get going again. This economy is going to be viable so that these taxes and everything and all fees that you put in place can actually be sustained over the medium and long term. And so one of the things that happened was the DART group came to government and said, look, we understand that times are tough right now. We would like to have a structured way in which we are going to invest in the country. We would want to have some transparency around it. So we want to actually have a public document that says this is the 4 Cayman Investment Alliance. You, government, see the situation of the country, of the world. This is how we as a DART group are going to invest in the country to try and ensure Cayman turns the corner, goes from deficits to a surplus. So there was a number of things that was included in that investment alliance. But in the end, no complete agreement was ever reached. So a part of it was achieved, and that's where the NRA agreement came in, and that was around building the road, the bypass road that goes from Badabanu and connects into the old West Bay Road. And so that road, for those of us that don't want to recreate history, that road has been the lifeblood of our district. I can remember being a young professional, having traffic backed up all the way on 7 Mile Beach onto Northwest Point Road. Right? I don't like to recreate history. I just like to remember what really happened. What really happened was our district was being choked off just as the eastern districts suffer from traffic now. So I say to people all the time in the eastern districts, don't say that we're so lucky in West Bay, because I'm not that old. And I remember when traffic was horrendous for us as well. And it took over an hour to get from West Bay into Georgetown. And so one of the key anchors around the agreement was the building of that road. A, they could deliver it much more efficiently than government could. B, that would have meant that we government didn't have to put that and try to get that in the budget for approval by the UK. And by the way, the wonderful thing about this is, yes, there is the internet, but not only is there the internet, this agreement was signed with the full view of the public and was a public document. This was not a side deal. This was not something done in a dark, smoky room where nobody could see it. This was a clear, transparent transaction. Now, Sandra, let me just make sure that we articulate all of this correctly. First of all, and let's reconcile this, because let's not throw dart and try to make dart the least common denominator when the two, in fact, don't really interconnect. First, the DART owned no hotels back then. DART had a plan to build a hotel, a single hotel. But DART had no hotels back then. DART did put out the notion that they would build some hotels in the future. But that looked very, very different than what has happened today. My comments of today is completely different than 16 years ago. Since that time, they've built the Kimpton. Not only that, under the Progressives administration, they got a change to the NRA agreement where the public beach park, which should be where the Indigo is right now, the original agreement that we signed had that being the entire public beach park, because we knew for the future that the demand during Easter and other seasons meant that we were not going to have enough space. And so we had a full-on schematic of the beach part of it, right around the back there where Kimpton is right now, was supposed to be all the campground. It was going to be pet friendly. It was going to be a wonderful, wonderful family facility. I can't speak to why that change was made. You'd have to ask the Progressives administration who made that change. Secondly, as part of the agreement, where Victoria House is, that lot of beach access right next to London House is still empty. We had an agreement that I think it was 105 feet of that was going to be allocated for a second public beach on the main West Bay Road. Because a lot of people don't count the one that's in West Bay and the corner of Northwest Point. They kind of see that more as a West Bayers beach. And so we wanted a second public beach. So all of that was in the original NRA agreement. Again, I can't speak to why it was taken out, because it certainly was there when I was in office. Since that time, the Darts have built the Kimpton. Fine, you have one hotel. There was plan for another one where they had Kaboo. So in my mind, looking on long term from that agreement, the Darts would eventually own two hotels.
So at the time, they didn't have the Ritz-Carlton?
No, of course not. Absolutely not. All of that has been acquired since. So since that time, the agreement gets changed. They build the Indigo. Fine. They then acquire the Ritz-Carlton. They've acquired Comfort Suites. I'm stating a fact. My job as minister responsible for finance, which is public finance and economic development, is to look at our economy and try to think long term about what this economy should look like to be optimal for Caymanians.
Right.
This is not a new idea. Let's be very, very clear. We have had private members' motions moved in Parliament from decades ago calling for antitrust legislation. One of the things that we've done well in Cayman is we move a lot of motions. You get elected, and then you wind up with so many other things happening. This gets dropped, that gets dropped, this gets off the radar because a new crisis has come up. And I'm not saying that to as in it's shame and anything. Look, it is what it is. This is how life happens sometimes. I just happen to be sitting here now, looking at where Cayman is, what has happened since I was in office 12 years ago, and saying to the public very clearly that when I look at the hotel industry, when I look at the liquor and liquor distribution industry, when I look at fuels and how that's been able to be shaped, where fuel companies, from what I understand, forced some independent operators to give up their fuel station ownership and then enter into some sort of lease back arrangement with them where they really are technically the owner and wholesale supplier, I just don't believe that's good economic development policy. I think that we need to look at our economy very carefully and ensure we don't allow unintended monopolies to be created in the private sector. Plain and simple, I stand by that as a policy position. The caucus sees it as a sound policy position. And so we're now going to start the work of looking at what drafting instructions would look like so that we can shape anti-competitive legislation that suits our circumstance. We have to be thinking about the long term for our children and grandchildren so that the Cayman that they inherit is one that works best for them.
All right. We do have some people weighing in. Then we'll go back to Johan for his next question. But this individual has the following to say. And I think part of what made this interesting was the fact that in the House, you decided to mention DART's name. And so even talking to some individuals after the story popped up, some people felt like, is this additional, what's coming down the pipeline? Instead of in terms of like politics, there's the Regen project. They're wondering if there was more to this than truly meets the eye. So here's a commenter that says, isn't this being a mature politician, though, being able to change one's mind or opinion on something? All right, Johan, next question or comment?
No, thanks for that robust reply. But I think it's important to note in the negotiations for the Four Cayman Investment Alliance, as you rightfully acknowledged just now, there was always the vision that was expressed that they would get into the hotel business. At the time, nobody seemed to have a problem with that. But 12, 15 years later, however many years that you're back now, you have a problem. But to compound my interest in this, you were also present in Parliament or in Cabinet when individuals who represent the mind and management of said organization were granted Caymanian status. Did you not think that it would be something potentially detrimental to the country if we gave everybody status?
Can you tell me who you said was in Cabinet? What do you mean? You weren't a cabinet. You weren't a cabinet member for McKeever Bush when they were doing out the not cabinet member. Sorry, you weren't elected, and one of his lieutenants and advisors on all things during the time when the status grant process was going on. I was an elected member.
It's a yes or no. It's a yes or no. It's a yes or no.
Well, let me just tell you something. You've called into the show that I'm on. You're not going to dictate.
Yeah, I know.
You just made a comment, and I'm now going to respond to your comment. Your comment is erroneous. It's inflammatory and erroneous and very immature. But I'm not surprised at that. Here's the reality of it. I was the second elected member for West Bay. Lieutenant was not in my name. I was not any key advisor. And anyone who knows me and anyone who wants to tell the truth around UDP knows that internally, we had a huge war around the cabinet grants. And I can tell the world that Rolston Anglin was not for them. I was away, got back to the news that we were granting 500 status grants because it was our 500th anniversary. What then came out of it? You have to ask those in cabinet who made that decision at that time.
All right, Johan, I had to mute you there because I don't want you to get into screaming match with the guests.
I'm not getting into screaming match.
We want him to respond.
Okay, hold on, stop. You can't allow the minister to be a dick and then everybody else.
No. Okay. All right. So it's
Sandra,
at this point.
Listen, Sandra.
Let me, Minister, just pause for 1 second. It's at this point in the conversation, right? Everybody knows the rules when we are on radio. There's certain words, no doubt Offreg is sitting here this morning shaking their head. There are certain words that you cannot say. We have blocked people like the likes of Kerry for using profanity during the radio segment. It is a very, very fast rule. Okay. Now, there are people who love to push the limits. I'm the host of this program. I actually pay for the privilege of you guys having the privilege of listening to this show on the radio. And we will be doing nothing to jeopardize that, as well as the fact that we have an application right now that is pending with Offreg to have our own radio station. We all have to play by some rules of engagement in life. Johan now risks a real risk of being permanently blocked, and I want you guys to understand, permanently blocked from being able to call into the radio because of what he just said. You cannot get on the radio. Johan is supposed to be an intelligent person. You can't get on the radio and get so upset and so in your feelings that you know it's not after 9:30 in the morning and you're going to call the minister such a derogatory word on national radio or use any sort of profanity while talking to anyone, whether it was the minister or anybody else. Wow.
Sandra, I respond with what is fact. I don't get into feelings. People like to recreate history. People want to drag people back into history, and that's fine. That's up to them. All I know is it's May 15th, 2026. I got reelected after not being in Parliament for 12 years. I see issues. I'm here to defend the public good. I have had nothing but positive feedback after those comments in the House, and positive feedback from a wide cross-section of Caymanian community. I have had Caymanian professionals in very senior positions call me and say, I don't believe you've been brave enough to say that publicly, but it needed to be said. Now, they're not going to say things publicly because of their business relationships across the island. And I get that. Guess what? I'm not limited by any such thing. I got elected by the good people of West Bay North, and I am going to do my very best to ensure that on the economic development piece of this ministry, we right-size this economy and shape it in a way, Sandra, that is going to work for Caymanians. For too long, we've shoo-shooed around the risks in this country. And everybody wants to do our normal Cayman thing. We shoo-shoo on the sideline and get nothing done. Well, I'm not. You said I'm a hard worker and I'm not a shoo-shoo type of guy. It is what it is. We are where we are, and we now need to make sure that and this isn't about any particular group. This could be about any entity. We don't want to have a country. Let's use an example. Suppose one entity was to be able to go out and buy up every supermarket, buy up every corner store, own all of the exclusive rights of food products into Cayman. You realize what type of world we'd live in if and right now that's legally permissible. There's absolutely nothing in legislation that could stop that from happening. Not a thing. In my mind, that's not a good place for these islands to be in. We need to ensure we legislate for our economy to have the possibility of robust competition. Oligopolies and monopolies can be very dangerous, very, very dangerous, especially for little small communities like ours. I'm not going to apologize for that, Sandra.
Mm-hmm.
I have yet to find any Caymanian, once they understand, and headlines are headlines. People love the little, and you said that to me yesterday when we were chatting, that we needed to have this discussion so people would completely understand what the policy position is. And I agree with that. That's why I enjoy, and from the time I was minister the last time, I come on radio. I challenge myself to be out front in the public domain more than anyone else, because I believe the public has a right to know. You need to put yourself out there, face the public, explain to the public what we're doing and why we're doing it, because this is how we get engagement. Mm-hmm. But not only that, Sandra, a lot of times we get nuggets of good things happening, right? When that feedback comes in, my team takes notes, and we mm-hmm. oftentimes be like, oh, okay, that caller said, or that writer said such mm-hmm. and such. Let's make sure we incorporate that into what we're doing and into what we're planning. That's what mm-hmm. That's what mature intercourse of this sort is supposed to be about.
All right. So thank you so much, Minister, for that. And I think that, it's unfortunate that I have to even address Johan today. But what I'm going to do is 9:30 is in 30 minutes. We're going to allow the minister to continue to have his time this morning. And then at 9:30, I will address Johan fully. And those of you who are sending in your comments, we will discuss and share those comments at 9:30. How about we do that? So we're going to put Johan's position or his comments rather this morning on pause, as opposed to allowing that to hijack the remainder of the minister's time, because we have important things to discuss. So El Rey says, it's the first time I'm hearing about the 500 status grants, but obviously it ran away and became a free-for-all. It isn't the first time that I've heard that, because that was the original reasoning for our, as you said, 500th anniversary. And then they changed it to something else later on about, the UK was pressuring us, that all these people had been here forever. And if we don't give them status, they would step in. And then we found out the people who had been here no time at all were getting it. So it's just, crazy. Hill Construction, again, on the Johan bit, we'll pause that discussion, Mr. Hill, until a little bit later on in the program. Like I said, at 9:30, it is Friday after all, and we love a good FAFO segment on a Friday. So there you go. All right. So in relation to the DART organization, someone did take the time to break down some numbers for us last night, give or take a few. We were actually going to reach out to DOT, but I'm glad you've clarified that you didn't actually say that they have a monopoly, because this was on the premise that a monopoly existed, because they broke it down by the hotel rooms, what's under construction, the total after opening, and what portion then of who owns what. So we see, yes, DART properties, Ritz-Carlton, Kimpton, Hotel Indigo, Hampton, Los Solil, the whatever in Cayman Brac, and Paradise Villa in Little Cayman. And we see what portion that accounts for. It's about 38%. And then after, that's the current room inventory. And then after 1GT and Grand Hyatt comes on board, that's actually going to drop down to about 32%. So the point really is that they don't hold a monopoly. I mean, you could argue that 32% of any industry is still a fairly robust, presence.
It's a significant presence, Sandra.
But it's
any company. If you said to a company right now in just about any industry in Cayman, by the way, go through your marketing and development plan, and at the end of the day, you're going to have 32% of the market. You're going to feel pretty good about that. That's a significant portion of any market. My point, as I said, and I'm glad we clarified it, is if you listen to what I said, I use it as a reference point of why this is future looking. My point is, you're quite right. You look at those, and now all of a sudden, you acquire 2 hotels in the last couple of years, the Ritz-Carlton, and 3, actually. The one in the Brac, the Hampton, and Ritz-Carlton. What happens if you acquire the new Grand Hyatt? What happens if you acquire Marriott? See, I live in a world, and this is why experience matters. And I love the comment one of your authors made a little earlier. Life is about experiences, and using those experiences to do what is right long term. And yes, you learn. We all learn. I can remember first getting elected, and a particular entity owned the Marriott and the I think it was not the Kimpton, the Marriott and the, I'm going to get that hotel in a minute, the one opposite, it'll come back to me in a minute. Having a senior moment, Sandra. But bottom line is, his entity was in such a dominant position that they frequently called up DOT to quote unquote discuss try to have a real influence on the way government spent its marketing budget. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be interacting. I think interacting with the private sector is key. You can't have a DOT off doing its own thing, but you want to be ensure that they can have that operational independence versus one operator having such a disproportionate influence on what they do, etc., within the country. So it's around building for the future, Sandra. We need to ensure that we keep our market conditions that are optimal. That is why you would create this type of legislation. This isn't about, as I said, I named them as an example because I wanted the public to understand that we're paying attention. We're paying attention, and we see what's happening in the country. We see areas in the country that one or two acquisitions more and particular entities would have such a disproportionately dominant place in the market that they either would be a monopoly or certainly an oligopoly that they can then disproportionately influence the rest of the market. This is all about microeconomic planning. That's why I got elected. I wasn't elected to come on this show and talk foolishness. I was elected to be thoughtful. I was elected to ensure we make data-driven decisions and that we're future-looking. That's why the people of West Bay North elected me, and I am going to deliver on that mandate to the best of my ability.
All right, folks, 936-2626. My apologies. I know there was a caller in the program, and I think they hung up. They got a little bit tired of waiting. So we have another comment here. There's lots of comments that are coming in. So we're going to get to some of these. And this person is speaking specifically now to the DART situation. And they say that they were appreciative, great that Rolston is given the history, was such a transparent agreement. Renovate closed hotel was part of the agreement, and the Courtyard Marriott was required to be developed, and that became the Kimpton. Give us 1 second here. We do have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program. Hello? Oh, my apologies. Oops, sorry. I had that mute button on. Morning, caller.
Oh, morning. I said I just called in and I just woke up, so I'm catching in. I'm joining late. So I'm not sure if this question has been posed to Minister Anglin as yet. Good morning, Minister Anglin.
Good morning.
So I'm going to switch gears here a little bit, right? So a big topic on your show this week, for which I and many other people were very vocal. I have two questions I want to ask. One, I'm asking on behalf of many friends that I have in private sector, and they've asked me to ask this question. The minister obviously knows this does not apply to me, as I am a cynical patient, but they have asked me to ask on their behalf. But I'll start off firstly, and I'm going to be very careful with my wording, so I won't be using in a foul language.
Thank you, ma'am.
That I get blocked on your show.
Thank
I
you.
usually am quite careful, or try to be before 9:30. I'm very wary of that. But to be as eloquent as I can and ask this question, has the topic already been raised with the minister concerning the prep school fiasco with the OnlyFans star who posed in his underwear? Has that, which is totally unacceptable. We've spoken about this all week. I think you did 2 segments on your show. There was a lot of outrage about it. I spoke up, many other people spoke up. And I asked then, and now I would like to ask the minister, one-on-one, is he going to get involved in this fiasco? Because it is indeed a fiasco, and it's absolutely ridiculous, unacceptable. And although I don't have any children in prep school, I certainly would not be an appreciative parent if I did have one. In the public school system, if a teacher is, let's just say for other offenses, they're dealt with or supposedly dealt with very quickly, you know, in cases of molesting children or whatever. And I'd like to know what is being done with this situation, as so many prep school parents seem to think it was okay. And as you know yourself, were very, what would be the word? They certainly defended him on social media, which I find quite alarming. most of them were expats, which doesn't surprise me since it is an expat school. No longer a Caymanian school. I've said before, it's not the prep school I went to with Mr. McManey, Miss Janely, Miss Armstrong, and the likes of those. And I'd like him to answer that if it has not been addressed already.
Yeah, we were certainly coming to this, Ms. Debbie. Don't worry. The minister was not going to be permitted to leave today without us discussing this issue. So
yeah, I'm not sure, like I said,
yeah,
because I did join in late. But I do have a question, and as I said, I've had many people in the private sector who happen to be friends ask me to ask this question. So I'm going to ask it on behalf of them, okay? So just bear with me because it's a message and I need to go back to the message and I need to read it.
Is it related to Cayman Prep, the same Cayman Prep situation?
No.
Okay, so can we get him to respond to that first before we jump onto something else? The Cayman Prep.
Okay, this one is pensions.
Okay.
I mean, he can answer this as he wants.
Well, hold on. Okay. So do you want to just send me the question?
Well,
and
it's
then
pretty long, convoluted. I just prefer to see it because I've got to be out of here by 9:30.
Okay.
And I'm going to lose you on my radio at 9:30.
Yeah.
Okay. So it says, ask him when is government going to get a healthcare plan in place for their seniors, as most people right now have to use their pension to pay their medical. That is the second question. It has absolutely nothing to do with PrEP.
Okay.
So there's two questions, and I look forward to both responses.
Yes. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, caller. All right. So the first question is in relation to Cayman Prep. And of course, the caller's right. We did spend an exorbitant amount of time this week, and I could have spent so much more time. People have no idea all the stuff that I was getting in, to the point where Prep even was putting up their billboard this week. Their messaging on their billboard was about loyalty, apparently. So they said that those who remain loyal, I guess, to them, I mean, we're talking about a Christian school here, that they will be blessed. That apparently that's what Proverbs says. So, Minister, some serious concerns about a school administrator, head of assessments, I think it is, and teacher, who posted on his social media page a full naked photo of himself, but the angle, thankfully, it wasn't worse, but it was from the back. And a lot of people, some people saw this as no issue. They don't care what teachers are doing at a religious institution, a religious-based school. Other people, like myself and that caller, were obviously very, very disturbed by this. And people were calling for the ministry, and specifically you, the minister, to do something about it. What is your position on this, and what can you do, if anything at all?
Right. I mean, my position is based in law, right? We have this little important thing, Sandra. It's called, if you can zoom in, it's called the Education Act. This is the law in which that governs what I can and cannot do. We have a system that has public schools and private schools. The United Church, I think it's called, of Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, owns the Cayman Prep School. Them and their board govern the Cayman Prep School. You forwarded me some of the comments, and I don't have any legal authority to step into Cayman Prep and what's happening at Cayman Prep. Parents need to put pressure on the board, and the board needs to run Cayman Prep. And I would presume with enough pressure from parents, then the board would behave appropriately. What I can say is that I used the phrase that I used yesterday when I was discussing this internally. Cayman Prep seems to have developed into the gift that keeps on giving. Cayman Prep has an excellent record, of academic achievement. They have an excellent A-level college, as do the Catholic school. Yet it seems to me like over the last few years, they just keep winding up. Certainly the crosshairs with CMR. I mean, and And I presume that's because people see you as an influencer who can advocate for certain things that might not otherwise be revealed to the public, right? I'll deal with the two that I believe are easier to substantiate. The first is the whole controversy around the primary school principal and the fact that many staff members, what has been accused is many staff members have left because of her, and that persons were feeling that because of who she's married to, etc., nothing was being done, and that I could step in. I don't have any authority over the hiring, etc., within a private school. Where the rubber starts to meet the road on this issue is the fact that we do have a grant system across all private schools, full-on private schools. And the policy that exists is that there's a bucket of money. It's divided per private school, and each private school is allocated those funds as a grant. This is all in the budget. You can go to the budget document, as I was saying to you yesterday, Sandra, all in the budget document. You'll find every school listed in there that participates in the grant. It's the triple C's, it's the Catholics, it's the preps, it's the Wesleyans, all of the full-on licensed schools that provision primary and secondary education, compulsory education. So from that standpoint, people are now posturing and saying, well, are we at the point where the government needs to consider whether or not it will cut off the allocation of funding to Cayman Prep? And I get that. That's a fair question. Public monies, you know my rule on the, Sandra. The public has a right to say how its monies are being spent, plain and simple. And so the fact is, us giving monies doesn't still override the law. The law is the law, right? What we can do is we can cut the money, or we can attach certain conditions to the money.
Okay.
Those conditions are not going to be operational in nature, right? Those conditions aren't going to be, oh, well, I'm going to give you a grant, and guess what? The Ministry of Education is now going to be your school board. Right? That would be disproportionate and rather alarming and an unfair way to try to administer the public purse, in my opinion. Where we have reached as a ministry is I have sent Cayman Prep a letter to the chairman of the board, asking the chairman of the board by next Friday, no later than next Friday, to update me as to what has happened internally as it relates to this, these circumstances surrounding this particular teacher and the posts. My understanding is, well, first of all, let me take a step back. Having read the letter that was sent to parents, I also noted in my letter to the chairman that I was disappointed that the letter did not begin by talking about the safeguarding of students and ensuring the efficacy of running the school in a way that would be supportive of what I would believe would be the Christian ethos of the school, given the fact that it's owned by a church. Instead, the letter, in my opinion, the letter began from what I read as a very defensive posture, trying to justify the existence of the photos, and then really anchoring the argument around the fact that the account was supposedly private. The fact is, it seemingly wasn't private for it to wind up on CMR. Now, whether it was private or not, and whether they used a forensic IT person who could actually look at the trace the history of that account to see if it was private at one point, it wasn't. I don't know if they went that far. I don't know what they did, but I asked the question as to get a response because I want to understand officially how they came to that conclusion. I then also asked the question for them to respond to this allegation that children were asked and questioned about this. Because seemingly from what has been reported, I'm going to be careful here, Sandra, from what have been reported, seemingly there was a position taken by the school that parents are so inept at social media that they needed to then ask children, oh, by the way, were you asked by your parents about this and all this good stuff? And again, I've asked for the question because I want to get an official response, because that, again, if it happened, would be extremely alarming and would run contrary, in my opinion, to their own school children safeguarding policy, which they have in place, which is mandated by law that every school that's offering compulsory education must have in place as part of its operations. So for me, this is really around the whole breadth of child safeguarding, what is appropriate to be done by an adult in this sort of because see, for me, public or private, when you start posting stuff in a medium that you don't control the hosting of, whether you say that you got it locked and it's private or not, as an adult, you need to start to assume that it's not private. Someone can hack it. If you share it with anyone other than yourself, you automatically lose control. So you see, for me, Sandra, even the explanation that it was a private and locked account and was shared by trusted parties, and that purportedly a trusted party breached the teacher's trust, in my opinion, lacks judgment, fundamentally lacks good judgment. I'll leave that there because I don't think I should go any further until I get the official response from the school. But I want to make it very, very clear, and I made this point before, I have to be extremely careful around how I interact with schools, because people look on and believe, oh, he's the minister. You're the minister of education. You can do and say what you want. No, I cannot. I have to be guided by the education law. Now, circumstances do make you pause. And so in my own mind, I have been pausing now and thinking about two things. We have shifted the policy around this grant a number of times over the years. There was a point where it was driven by a formula per Caymanian child. So every school had to submit a list of its Caymanian students. Government came up with a number. They multiplied that number by the number of Caymanians each school had in its enrollment and paid them that as a grant. There was a time where they had that plus what was called a project-based grant, where each school then had to submit a project plan and government would fund it up to, I think it was like 25,000 or whatever, a certain dollar amount. Dollar amount is irrelevant. That's the principle, right? So the fact is, this grant policy has shifted over the years. I need to think this policy through very carefully. I need to think through very large schools that I would believe to be profitable. A number of them we already give a lot of business to, including Cayman Prep, through the dual enrollment program for sixth form and A-levels, where we fully fund all Caymanians who meet the criteria and are admitted. That's for them and St. Ignatius. So I do need to think very carefully about what this needs to look like going forward. And then I also need to think very carefully as to what conditions we may or may not place upon any grant going forward. That's the thing about these sorts of events, right? When everybody does what they're
Yes.
supposed to do, life just happens.
Yeah.
And we're getting the outcomes we want. But then events happen and we have to now respond and think carefully. And it certainly is one. I'm waiting on their response. And we only sent a letter this morning, right? So I'm waiting on their response. I'm giving them 1 week to respond. But in fact, I think I gave them until the 25th. So that's a week on Monday, because I want to be fair, because next week, Monday is a holiday. So I'm awaiting the response, and then we're going to take that from there. But as I said, every school has an ethos. I have to tell you, this is me now just speaking as me. I have to say that a lot of the responses that have been shared with me that have emanated from the school, I am quite alarmed at, given the fact that this is a church-owned institution. Very much alarmed. But I think
yeah. Let me just jump in here so that when they respond to you, hopefully they're not trying to hoodwink you with their response. So his, and again, just really, really briefly, we received an initial email on January the 26th. The email in my mind, for some reason, I saw it and I responded, but I don't think I properly looked at the images that were attached. In that email, the sender of that email made it very, very clear that this was an open Instagram account. Now, when he had his lawyers reach out. By the way, the lawyer has not responded to my letter since I sent the letter in, nor have they responded to follow-up emails where I essentially said, gee, it looks like your client basically lied to you about this account being closed, because now we know that there's no way that this account was closed at the time that the screenshot was taken of these images. Because it would not say follow up at the top if it was a closed account. And so we have a teacher who's bold enough to post a naked photo of himself on social media at the time that he was actually working in a senior management position at Cayman Prep, and then talks about in the caption itself that he's preparing for a secret garden party with what does it say? With Aspal, the calm before the carnage. So if you take the imagery and the actual caption together, my apologies. If you take that together, this is not a post that any school administrator, any teacher in their right mind should feel comfortable with posting anywhere. So we will leave that there, and we hope to get an update to see what Cayman Prep. Hopefully we'll be responding to the ministry, and we'll be staying from there. So just in the event that they try to lie to you, I mean, they concluded in a very short space of time that an investigation had been completed, and they were confident that these were private photos. Basically, they just took his word for it. As it relates to teachers, there is a situation at Prospect Primary where, and it's funny because we didn't really get any details on this, I must admit, but someone reached out knowing that you were coming in the program. And I also see a commenter now here as well. And they're saying, they messaged me at 11:13 last night saying, what happened at Prospect Primary? Why has it been so hush-hush where this teacher has now been put on some sort of leave? Now, ironically enough, yesterday I was speaking to a parent at Prospect Primary. Normally parents would have been the first ones reaching out to me about a situation like this to give me further details. And I have to admit that this is one of them that has really gone a bit under radar. But I'm understanding that once again, there is an allegation that a teacher has assaulted a primary school child, right? So this is now in a government school. This one said, did you hear about the incident reported at Prospect School with a teacher and a child, and MASH had to get involved? Don't share my name, but we need exposure on this. This is apparently very hush-hush, and very few people know about the situation. I feel the school, on a wider note, need to be made aware. We don't need details on the student, but at the end of the day, other kids could be at risk, and we as parents aren't aware. So my sources yesterday told me that there's some allegation that the teacher was choking the child or manhandling the child in some sort of what would be really an unacceptable situation. What can you tell us? And I see Michelle here asking a similar question. What can you tell us? Like, what is involved with a student? Like, what actually is going on at Prospect Primary?
So what I can't say is all the details at present. What I can say is an incident did happen. The teacher is on required leave, was immediately put on required leave as soon as the incident was reported to the chief officer, and it's being investigated at present. What I can assure parents is that we certainly take every instance of child safeguarding seriously, whether it involves a teacher or not, but even more so when it involves one of our professionals in our classrooms. And so we certainly ensured that we acted immediately, and we issued a press release on Friday alerting the public that an incident had happened and it was being investigated. And we certainly can't go any further than that because, as you say, quite rightly say, MASH has to investigate it and come to a conclusion so that we can put the matter to bed. The
Right.
fact is, Sandra, this is just a part of, sadly, this is a part of running any entity, especially, and the bigger an entity gets, the greater the risk is, right? When you have to hire one person, then the odds of getting it right is great. When you get to 2, 3, now we have several hundred professionals across our schools. And I think the thing that we always need to be very careful of, the vast majority of our professionals in our school system act appropriately. And I hate when we do a broad brush and then everyone gets tainted with the same brush. When you have several hundred professionals, you're going to have incidents happen. Our job is to act swiftly, act firmly, and not let matters fester or sweep them under the rug. And I can certainly commit to the public that there's nothing that's going to happen in this ministry as long as I'm minister that we are not going to act upon. We have to do our investigation though, and ensure that we're fair and we're balanced to all sides and all parties. So the matter's under investigation, Sandra, and I would like to just leave that one there until it's concluded.
And it would be paid leave that she's on at this time.
Yeah, whenever you get put on required leave, that's what it is. It's paid because at that point,
the investigation is still
right. That's how the system works as it relates to public officers.
And I mean, Michelle and everybody else, I guess there's a presumption, just like in a court of law, there's a presumption of innocence until the evidence shows otherwise. There is a new document as it relates to civil servants and what can be done with them in terms of reprimanding them and even termination, so that you don't have to wait for the outcome of a criminal investigation. I'm assuming, and this is a question, is the ministry then carrying out a parallel investigation so that even if MASH unit comes back and say, oh, well, we accept that she might have put her hands on him, but not really a serious infraction where we're going to press criminal charges, can the ministry itself say, well, that is still unacceptable behavior and still terminate that person regardless?
Listen, child safeguarding comes even before teaching and learning, Sandra. Let me repeat that. Child safeguarding comes before teaching and learning. If a child is not safe, you cannot teach them, and they cannot learn. Children have to be safe first. And so I can certainly tell you from my perspective and the perspective of the chief officer is that if it reaches that threshold, then that's the course of action that has to be taken. My understanding is that the deputy governor was alerted immediately, and so she's working in parallel. Not only is MASH doing their investigation, but we were working on the HR end as well to ensure that whatever HR steps are allowable can be taken in parallel as everything progresses.
Aisle 2025 says when you hire teachers from the Caribbean, you get the violent way of discipline that we all know and have been traumatized by from our own childhoods. Sophia says no teacher has the right to put their hands on no child. Michelle says things like this should be causing much more outrage than a teacher's bathing suit pic on Instagram. Just saying. Well, Michelle, again, it wasn't until yesterday that we heard supposedly what happened, and I don't really have any concrete details. The bathing suit picture, I got lots of details. I got multiple photos. I have lots and lots of teachers and school people, staff from prep who've reached out. So that's not the situation here. So I can't be outraged when I don't have enough information, quite frankly, to be outraged about. I think all of you know my personal position is that I'm not in favor of corporal punishment, and I'm certainly not in favor of teachers doling out corporal punishment by choking kids or grabbing kids up or whatever it is that may have occurred here. Ms. Lily says a couple of years ago, we had the same issue at PPS. The teacher is back and working. PPS is going downhill. What is the general, and I don't know this because I haven't had to deal with public schools in Cayman, but what is the, from the ministerial perspective, what is allowed when it comes to corporal punishment? Is there something in our school rules that allow teachers to dole out corporal punishment in schools? Is there still paddling? Is there anything like that that's allowable?
No. Corporal punishment was banned many years ago. Many years ago. Mm-hmm. Corporal punishment was banned in the UK and therefore banned across all of our OTs. So no, there is no such thing as corporal punishment allowed in any of our school systems. But Sandra, before I get off the air though, I do want to ensure I answered the second question.
Yes, and I do have a few more I'm going to sneak in there as well before you leave, but go ahead. By Miss Debbie.
Debbie did ask a question, and it was a very curious question. When would a healthcare plan for seniors be developed? We've had a healthcare plan for seniors in this country for a long time. We have something called NGS 55, and I funded it in this year's budget. We insisted in funding it to the tune of $46 million. We have something called HEA2 funded at $28 million. Those are designed not just for seniors, but those who need to have either overseas or local referrals or health care, and they don't have the necessary health insurance coverage. We have hundreds, probably thousands of Caymanian seniors who are receiving free health care. They go to DFA, they get an assessment, and they then get put on a plan at Cineco that is covered by the government. So because Cineco is a separate legal entity, we have to do it this way, Sandra. They have a license, they operate as an insurance company. So they do get put on a plan. And then, yes, Cineco is 100% owned by government, but DFA then pays that premium over to Cineco. So Cineco can then offer the coverage. So we've had that plan in place for a long time. We also have a plan that's on sale for those persons who might be in categories that can afford, and they have multiple plans that are available that are not very costly as well, because they're highly subsidized by the government. That's why those plans typically get picked up at Cineco and not in the private sector.
Sophia, thank you so much. So for a few more questions that I do want to get to, we did that one already. This one was listening at the time of Johan, and they said, yes, girl, and make sure that Rolly knows that this Caymanian like what he is doing. let's do the DART one first. So this person says, it's great that Rolston is given the history. It was such a transparent agreement. Renovate a closed hotel was part of the agreement. The Courtyard Marriott was required to be developed, and that became the Kimpton. Acquired RC in 2000. That's RC being Ritz-Carlton in 2017 after Kimpton opened in 2016. So those are the dates. And they say from the article, and they quoted, it says it's a much different statement from what he said on your show just now. He definitely said DART owns all the hotels, can't allow it to continue. This is factually incorrect. So they're saying that in Parliament, maybe in the heat of the moment, I don't know if that's what you did mean, but that they're saying that that's exactly what you said. So you might want to go back and have a listen.
We'll get the Hansard, Sandra.
Yes, and we can the YouTube videos there too.
This person is quoting an article, and the article probably is coming from one of the two media houses that is always going to attack me and always going to want to not see anything that I do good because they don't care about the average Caymanian.
Yeah.
That is CNS.
Renee should not be, I mean, I'll check with her, but she should never be quoting other articles. She should have gotten the transcripts from the proceedings and actually quote from the proceedings. So I'll double check because we are very, when we use a quote, and in fact, I can tell you that just yesterday, she actually, in her transcribe software that we use, she took down all 3 hours and 43 minutes of it. And so I can quickly on the fly.
So bottom line is, as you quickly on the fly check the transcript, the reality of the situation is, and you see how I said at the very end that we cannot allow any company to become a monopoly.
Yes.
So clearly I ended by saying cannot allow anyone to effectively have a monopoly.
Yeah.
It's wrong to allow any company to be so dominant in a sector that you effectively have a monopoly. Never said they were a monopoly, right? And the fact is that's still my position, and I stand by it.
Yeah.
It is good economic development policy. So I really can't say too much more on that. Now, if people want to get up in their feelings because I named one group, that's really up to them. I really don't care. I mean, on that point. I care about the public and the country.
Yes. So we do have it here. I've just found it. I did a word search really quickly. And this is what you actually said. And I'm going to play it in the background. I'm not sure that you guys can probably hear it. Hold on one second. I think I need to do a screen share for you to be able to. But this is essentially what you said. So at 3:29:25, you said, let me also make sure that all and sundry. So
you're playing some Sandra, I don't hear anything.
So you do go on to say, and I quote, they own all the hotels in this country. We cannot allow it to continue. No one company or group should be able to own an entire industry. So you did say that they own all the hotels in this country. So maybe you misspoke then, is what we're saying now.
Sandra, clearly they don't own all the hotels. They don't own the Marriott,
but I mean, the Westin. But that's what you said in Parliament. So when we quote it, we're quoting it exactly because we're not going to put it in quotes if that ain't what you said.
Okay, Sandra.
All right. This one came in. Sandra, it's interesting to hear the minister speak. He speaks out of both sides of his mouth, to be honest. I've been well informed by a young qualified Caymanian in the private sector who was willing to join UCCI in a senior role that the minister himself said in a private setting, that individual must not and cannot get the role at UCCI, no reason given. The young Caymanian has been so demoralized and distraught since hearing that news. How can the minister do such things such as working against Caymanians? Perhaps he should revisit who he put there as acting president and CEO and stop carrying hate in his heart as well for the vice president and provost, Dr. Smith, while he is at it. So UCCI continues now. That continues to be the gift that keeps on giving. But
Absolutely, Sandra.
there is
Absolutely.
a lot to unpack and a lot that's going on there.
A lot to
Allegations.
unpack, a lot to unpack. Absolutely. There's no Caymanian that applied for any role that I said should or should not be given a role. I don't hire or fire at UCCI. The president and CEO does. The board appoints. The board does the interview for the appointment of the president, and I then have to, under law, agree in writing as to the appointment of the president, and that's it. Anyone that knows me knows that any Caymanian who's qualified for a post, we want to ensure they apply. In fact, the only thing that I know about at UCCI was a few months ago, their CIO role was up, and I knew a few young Caymanians that were in the IT space, and I reached out to a few of them and said, "Hey, I don't know if you saw this, but go ahead and apply." It was about 3 of them. That's that, because I want young, good Caymanians all over the public service, civil service, private sector. I want to see young Caymanians getting their opportunity and shining. Why wouldn't I want that?
All right. Very good. So on another show, we're going to have to talk about John Gray, because I have been getting some really, really disturbing information that our students at John Gray School are not taking care of that beautifully brand new campus. And I have footage, I've got videos of how they are treating the campus. And I'm shocked, really, because I remember at the time saying to them, this is such a beautiful campus. Let's ensure that you do everything possible to take care of it. And then I'm seeing, photos like this. This is what they're doing. They're dumping all sorts of garbage actually in the toilet. They are marking up the desk, graffiti and writing all over the walls and stuff like this. I mean, wow. Our young people are taking no pride, certainly, in their environment. They obviously aren't focused on learning, but how can students sit in a classroom and find the time and energy to do this if they're really supposed to be focusing on their studies, defacing government property?
So, Sandra, we have a lot of work to do in terms of lifting pride and ensuring that we're working with parents, so parents can start spreading some serious messages from home around what is appropriate behavior and trying to lift those standards across all of our young people, quite frankly. We are in the process now of consolidating all of our school visits. And in meeting with the student councils of the Clifton Hunter and John Gray High School, we received some pretty interesting feedback. Let me remind the public, Sandra, because it's important for me to do this. On school visits, we meet with the principal and the senior team by themselves, no teachers, no DES. We then meet with the teachers by themselves, no principal, no DES, and we meet with students by themselves. So each student body also has a teacher that is a quote-unquote counselor or guidance for the student body, which is appropriate. That's the way you would want those things to happen. But when we meet with those students, even that teacher is not in the room. So we met just with the students. So we got some interesting feedback. They are, at John Gray in particular, they are concerned about a small core of their fellow students who are really, really acting up and acting inappropriately. They were also questioning us around what do security guards do at schools, and they gave us some examples of what they observed. I've also had parents ask me a lot of those same questions. So, Sandra, I'll give you a preview. Across all schools, we we do have some themes that have emerged across our school visits. One of those themes is it time for us, or has led me to start thinking along with the team, is it time for us to now start rethinking some of our outsourcing? So let's use a classic example, Sandra. If you only need a security guard for 8 hours a day, and it's more cost effective to simply contract them in versus hiring a human being as a full-time employee, you outsource. I've been looking at the numbers and the cost. And so there are certain areas of our functions in schools that I'm now having to think to myself, would we be better off training up individuals who can come on school campuses and actually perform a more valuable function than simply standing at gates and standing at doors and greeting people? So I'll leave that there. There's lots of stuff that we're going to be talking about and coming to the public with over the next 2 to 3 months. And a lot of it is just coming straight out of our school visits and us now having a rethink around a wide range of issues that we believe can have a positive impact in our teaching and learning and our school experience.
All right, Lennon Christian says, thanks for extending the school leaving age, but please add those 2 years in the middle to the primary level. Semi-illiterate 10 and 12-year-olds can't succeed in high school. El Rey says you can take the donkey to the water, but you can't make it drink. Aisle 2025 says in some U.S. schools, you have to get a pass or key from the classroom teacher to use the bathroom. It's a way of tracking the students. You also need to sign in and out the bathroom each time. I suppose there are ways to control this, around security.
Look, when you have young people gathered on school campuses, there's going to be a certain number who's going to behave inappropriately. Yeah. What we do along with them, along with the PTA, to really try to jam the message and get kids to be more mature, especially at high school, to behave more appropriately is something that we will continue to do. Look, I can tell you when I was in high school, we had graffiti in bathroom stalls. We had boys who would go in and purposely plug up the bathroom, right? So the point I'm making, that doesn't make it wrong then or now. I just don't like when we as adults react and try to make it seem as though this is a new thing. This has never happened in a high school anywhere in Cayman or in around. Look, we do have young, immature teenagers who do stuff that they see as funny, as cool or whatever, and we need to just continue to pound that message. But we need to work closer with our parents, and for parents to start really joining in chorus with the ministry around what is appropriate and inappropriate behavior. I can tell you, for example, I got a report just the other day that a parent went up to St. John Gray High School, barged in and shouts, and students heard. The students told me about this.
Yeah.
That she's there and nobody's going to stop her from coming in, and she could give Rolston Anglin something to F and talk about now. And, Sandra, for parents in this day and age to behave that way, I mean, really? That is where you're a parent of a high school student. You now get the connections, right? So we have societal issues that show up in our classrooms. Yeah. That is just the reality of what school systems face. And we just have to do our very, very best to monitor, have appropriate discipline measures, be consistent with our discipline measures, be consistent with our themes, be consistent with our child safeguarding and how we try to get kids to not bully, to be creative, be kind, enjoy school, and make school an enjoyable experience for everyone. And that is something that we will forever work on, right?
Yeah.
We're never going to get this perfect. There's going to be a child that acts up. We need to try to find the root causes for acting up and try to assist them to be the best version of themselves. That is what a school system needs to try to work along with home to try to create.
Yeah, I mean, and not more of the Japanese model where from pre-K, they're learning to clean up their environment, to pick up after themselves, to put stuff away, to take pride, quite frankly, in themselves. And along that line, when you mentioned that, I remember that someone had actually sent in the question where it said 2 questions for Raleigh tomorrow. With police stationed at John Gray High School, why are parents able to enter the premises to fight students? And number 2, why so many incidents occurring at John Gray High School and parents not being notified? So these are the behavioral issues. When people say, well, private school have their issues and why are you paying all this money to send your kids to private school? I can tell you that if a parent did that at private school, which I haven't heard really, but if a parent did that at private school, you better believe the police would have been called and that parent would have been arrested. So I don't know what happened at John Gray, whether the police were called and whether, there seems to be greater controls around this sort of thing in the private school system than in a lot of the government schools. And that's why some parents will, make the sacrifice. But anyway, Catherine says, consider reallocating some of the public funds currently subsidizing private schools to the public schools to work to bringing them all up to the same or better academic and resource standards as the private schools. Also consider reintroducing sixth form if it's not already in the works, and maybe include mandatory civics classes. Sarah, good morning, says, how are we managing the influx of families moving onto the island / children moving up in years when the classrooms are already at max?
So one of the things that we know is in the current immigration law is that came into force May 1 is increasing the amount of money a person needs to earn before they can even be considered to have a dependent here. What I'm working with the ministry on is we need to broaden the approval process, whereby before grants of dependents are given by one agency, they actually liaise with our agency in particular to ensure that the very issue that the person is writing about doesn't continue to haunt us, which is having class sizes that continue to creep up and get a little uncomfortable, certainly from our standpoint in the ministry. What I can say, though, is that at present, only 17%, I gave these numbers on the previous show, Sandra, but only 17% of public schools seats are occupied by non-Caymanians. The ministry was doing a piece of work, and in fact, let me just reach here, because we were doing a piece of work where the team at DES was giving us a breakdown in the ministry of the actual employment of those persons. And in fact, this just reminds me that we need to get that piece of work completed, because what I wanted was to get a real sense of how many of those students were children of teachers, children of other civil servants, children of public officers, and then persons who were not aligned to government. What had happened was, in a number of civil servants' contracts, a clause was written in that they could, when relocating to Cayman, bring their children with them. And that was a key recruiting tool that was used by some agencies in the government. What I can say is that when we announced that agencies shouldn't do this any longer, I got a report from one agency, the head of one agency, and he called me directly and said, listen, we heard your message loud and clear. We wanted to tell you we lost a recruit because of this, but we get the fact that where your situation is, and we made sure that we withdrew that clause from the offer that had went out. So we are doing work around this to try and ensure that the spaces that are in the system obviously are occupied by Caymanians, but we live in a world where we have a large number of teachers who are non-Caymanians. And I think most people would agree that if we're recruiting a person here and then they do have a child, that having their child access the public system is something that I don't think a lot of people would disagree with, but it's just something that is the unknown. I will also tell you that one of the key areas that I get a lot of requests, people who are calling, sending WhatsApp messages, emailing the ministry, is around persons, Caymanians, marrying persons who are non-Caymanian, and then bringing that foreign spouse's children to Cayman, and then demanding space in public schools. That is a tricky issue for us. It is one that we need to continue to educate the community that there's no guarantee of that. But the fact is, a lot of those persons are also now adopting those minor children. And of course, once the child is adopted, the child then legally becomes a person of Caymanian status. And so at that point, they would have full access to the government school system in any event. So again, because of the nature of our community, we can't plan as seamlessly as some other countries can plan by simply using birth rates and looking at birth rate statistics. We then also have to grapple with that big unknown, which is persons immigrating into Cayman, but in particular those who marry Caymanians, and the Caymanian spouse then brings their foreign spouse's child here and then looks to adopt them.
All right, final comment of the day. Can you confirm that this incident with the teacher at Prospect Primary falls under the new civil service government disciplinary policy, and the teacher is suspended without pay? I thought the new disciplinary policy came into effect on May the 1st, called for suspension without pay.
Sandra, I don't know the circumstances around what that disciplinary letter would be. I think one of the things that the public needs to recognize is that we have a separation of duties and powers in our civil service for a reason, right? I have no idea what that letter says. I'm not going to march into the chief officer's office and say, right, all civil service matters that's going on that you have responsibility for. I want to see what's in there because I want to have a say in it. That's inappropriate for me as minister to do. And so what I can say is the person is on required leave. I don't know if it's with or without pay, but I can get that information to you. What I can say is also that the chief officer did in her briefing to me say that they had consulted with the deputy governor and ensured that everything that was happening was reported in to the DG's office and the portfolio of the civil service.
All right, Minister. Thank you very, very much, folks. This has been another edition of Ministry Matters. I want to thank the Honorable Rolston Anglin for coming in and sitting in the hot seat today. Some days it's a little bit hotter than others, but this is really what this segment is all about. It's about being able to ask the minister questions, being able to see some of what the ministries have going on under their remit. As we can see, the minister has certainly been busy on a number of different fronts, and we didn't even get to everything really that we would have liked to. But, so far, this particular minister has been very, very consistent in coming on the program. We are expecting, hopefully, that Minister Jay Ebanks will be on next week, as well as we've got the Premier booked and a few other people booked as the NCFC government celebrates their first year as a united and unified force politically. So lots more to come. Continue to tune into the show. Minister, thank you so much for coming on the program and being willing to, again, be as frank as you can and listen to the people, hear their concerns, and hopefully take something away from it.
Well, absolutely. Sandra, it's been a wonderful show. Listen, at the end of the day, people are not going to agree with everything I say, and people are going to have their view. Some of it is going to be from a purely constructive perspective. Some of it is going to be from a perspective with their own agenda, their own like or dislike of me, their own like or dislike of when I was a member of parliament 15 years ago. For anyone who wants to live in the past, let them just continue to live in the past. What I know is it's 15th of May, 2026. I, unlike some people, have learned in life. I have reflected on myself and have learned and improved on who I am. I'm not so arrogant as to be stuck in my own ways in believing that the sun rises and sets in my you-know-what, and therefore their message is very consistent because they simply are who they are. Now, as for me, it's about moving forward. It's about progress. I believe that the ministries that I have constitutional responsibility for are making great strides. I believe in the last 12 months, we've had great achievements. We've rolled out a new ECAP policy that's going to assist dozens and dozens of Caymanian families that didn't have access before. We have doubled the funding on ECAP. I've talked about this ad nauseum on this show, and in fact, we're going to do another bit of press around it. We've delivered a sound, balanced budget in the Ministry of Finance. We just rolled out our fuels rebate program. We didn't even get to talk about that. We are looking at how we're going to structure and restructure the economy to make sure it's more resilient and built for Caymanians. Listen, there's lots and lots and lots of work. The fact is, we need to continue to be focused on our duties as parliamentarians, opposition included, and do our very best to leave Cayman a better place than we found it. I do also, though, Sandra, want to say, let us continue to pray for the many, many people in our community who have lost loved ones. We've lost some young people in West Bay over the last few weeks, and attended a funeral last week of a very young man, 35 years old. We've lost a very a stalwart senior in West Bay, so I offer sympathies to the family of Mr. Varian Ebanks. We've lost some institutional legends. We lost recently Mr. Hugh Hart, Mr. Ian Boxall. So we extend sympathy to their families. And so death is everywhere. Young, whether you're a legendary traditional Caymanian or someone who has been a pioneer in industry, it's all about how we lift each other up in prayer. I want us to also continue to just pray for all of our teachers, all of our educators, all who has contact with our children. Parents, get on board with your PTAs. Get involved. We are going to be rolling out our national PTA in the next few months, and we are going to provide more and more and the broadest amount of opportunity for parents to actively and productively engage with all schools and really be a part of the solution so that we can do the very best for our children. This is about checking all of our egos at the door and moving in concert to make life better for our children, give them the best possible chance for success and a bright, bright, bright future. So Sandra, I certainly wish you and all of your listeners a wonderful long weekend. It's another long weekend again, and ensure that we keep safe and we just take better care of each other. Let us just do that. Let's take better care of each other.
All right, Minister, thank you very, very much. We appreciate it. And Real Michelle says a very interesting, informative show today. Thank you. And Lady D says, well said, Minister. Tell them you no longer live in the past. However, you're welcome to it. However, they are welcome to it if they want, because you're now living in the future. Well, at the very minimum, the present. So, and Lady D also says, thank you, Minister Anglin. Job well done. Keep it up. So Johan, we're going to get to your comments. We see you're still here for it. It's now 10:07 a.m. Folks, Minister, have a good day and a safe weekend. And now we will address this will now become the Johan fuck around and find out segment of the show. So Johan is still here for it. And so now I want to address what transpired this morning. Okay, so I'm Johan, I'm disappointed in you, actually, that you would have called the minister a dick on a radio station for all to hear, because two reasons why. You have a very eloquent vocabulary when you're ready, as I do. And, sometimes I admit you just feel like calling somebody, what you think of them. And maybe there's no alternative word to calling someone a dick, but you also know the rules. As someone who, part of your family business is actually owning a radio station, you are very well versed in what the rules are around radio. I'm sure you know off-reg and how pernickety they can be in terms of oh God, here we go, Johan. Here we go. Your time now.
What?
Yes.
No.
Hello.
Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I just hit you on by accident. No, I think what happened today was the minister misspoke, and I obviously misspoke. You took the liberty of correcting him and pointing out that something he claimed he didn't say, and you read from a transcript of something that he actually said, but he misremembered or he misspoke, and the world didn't come to an end. And so I described his actions as acting like a dick. You took offense to that. It's your show. I understand it. Ultimately, this is a business for you. The people are paying their money to come on the show, and therefore you're going to defend your business because that's what reasonable people do. I'm not bent out of shape over it. But I do think we have to define what hypocrisy is, because there are people that get bent.
Let's...
No, you want me to finish or you want to talk?
Okay. Since it is my show, I think we just established that, right?
It's always been your show. That hasn't been established just now. This has been your show for years. We all listen to it. We all enjoy it. This means I might never get any brownies again, but I need to lose some weight anyway. So there you go.
You need to understand that this has nothing to do with the duplicity. This has nothing to do with you saying to the minister, you being duplicitous. You said one thing 15 years ago. Now you're saying something else. That has nothing to do with you getting on this platform this morning, knowing full well that we were on radio and making the very conscious decision to call the man a dick.
Okay. For you, I'm sorry that I called your friend a dick.
Jesus Christ. Johan, you need to stop being a dick in this moment.
Sandra, we're on radio. Oh my God.
No, we're not.
Somebody might be listening. Come on. Sandra, we're cool. We're friends. I think the world of you, the service you provide is first class and very necessary in Cayman. But you beat people from pillar to post, whether you like them or don't like them, between 8 o'clock to whenever, when we're on radio. You talk about people's sexual parts and their whole thing. Let's not be a hypocrite about it.
Johan, are you actually calling me? You just called me a dick on this show?
No. I didn't call you a dick.
Oh, I thought you said let's not be a dick about it, and you were talking to me. So, who else would you be talking to right now?
Okay, let's not be difficult. Let's just remove the adjective of a dick. Let's not be difficult. Would that make you happier?
You're the one who used it while we were on radio. And so right now you are really missing the forest for the trees.
No. For you, and because of what your radio is, and because it was potentially troublesome to you, I apologize for using that adjective to describe the minister, his attitude and his actions. Please, mea culpa. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that on radio, because it's you, and because I think a lot of you, and you run a good show. But at the end of the day, the point is you've taken a position which I completely understand. And it's the right position, because it's a show. They're paying their money. They need to show up. They want their time. But you can't misrepresent, misspeak, misremember, because you caught the minister in doing that very same thing. So how is it okay for you to point out that thing? But when I was getting to that point, he suddenly, I wasn't a part of anything. I was never an advisor to anybody. It is what it is. So if the apology is accepted, that's great. If it isn't, at least I've been mature enough to say, Sandy, sorry for using that adjective on your show. But ultimately, towards the end, you caught the man misremembering, miscommunicating, misspeaking on the floor of Parliament. And yet he was on radio going, I said no such thing. I said no such thing.
All right.
I said no such thing.
Thank you very much.
All right, great. Bye.
What are we missing here this morning? All right. This isn't about and it's so funny how Johan thinks he's being smart in this moment. Oh, your friend Rolston and I are acquaintances. This man has never stepped foot through my fucking front door of my house. How y'all gonna sit here and call this man a friend? Do we not know the rules already? Seriously, what is wrong with you guys? The rules are very, very clear. Miss Brenda says, dick is not profanity. Well, if Offreg is going to message me about the word whore, right, and want to find the station about that word, I'm pretty fucking sure that the word dick is going to be included in that as well, folks. You see, y'all don't understand, as much as I try to explain what actually the position that I'm in from 7:30 to 9:30. Some of you refuse to accept what it is. First of all, Bobo 103.1 FM is not my fucking station, okay? I pay my hard-earned money. We're not going to take any calls right now because I need y'all to listen to me. I pay my hard-earned money to be on Bobo every single month, thousands of dollars. I don't see y'all saying, here is a little $5, Sandy. Let me contribute to the thousands of dollars that you owe Bobo. And I have signed agreements with Bobo to say, this is what I will make sure that my callers, I have to be responsible for the behavior of my callers from 7:30 until 9:30. And this is why some of you have been blocked and you will continue to be blocked. And we're going to be adding new people to the block list. Life is this. We don't always get to create the rules by which we have to engage. Sometimes even me, I have to play by other person's rules. This has nothing to do with the fact that Ministry Matters is a paid segment. Yes, they're paying for it. And they're able to come on here and talk about some of the things that they want to talk about. It has nothing to do with whether Rolston is a friend, an acquaintance, in this zone, that zone. That it has nothing to do with Rolston. I honestly think it is very, very disrespectful that anybody could call in on this show, even outside of the rules about radio, and say to government minister's face that you're a dick. There's a broader issue and a broader conversation that we need to be having here. As much as we have had, for example, Kenneth Bryan on the program, and Kenneth and I have gone head to head on issues. I've called him to account. I've pointed him out when he's gotten something wrong, when he has also misspoke and his memory was failing him and whatever. I've never, ever said to the minister, you're a dick, when he was minister. There's something that is seriously missing here. But the bottom line is this. I am not, and Carrie says, Offreg is a fucking joke. Well, you can think they're a fucking joke because you don't even have to play by their rules, right? You do your show, you're not on radio, right? So you don't have to care what Offreg thinks or how they're going to treat you. You're entitled to your opinion. That has nothing to do with the price of rice in China. It really doesn't. You can think whatever you want about Offreg. I don't really give a shit. The bottom line is this. If you have a radio show that is being aired and broadcasted on radio, you have got to play by the rules. People have reported this show, I can tell you, for far less than that. And so when someone as intelligent as Johan, as intelligent as Carrie, continues to ignore the fucking rules from 7:30 to 9:30, you have to ask yourself, is this being deliberately done? Everybody and their granny knows that we have submitted our own license application to off-reg. CMR radio hopefully is coming. What makes you think that I'm going to sit here and allow you, knowing full well that our application is in, that I'm going to allow you guys to come on even more so now? You weren't able to do it before, but even more so now that we have our own application pending, and you can get on the show and use profanity whilst we're on radio when children are potentially listening to the show, right? And there will be no repercussions for your behavior. All of the apologies in the world don't undo what you have already done and what you have already said. So, Johan, we may accept your apology, and I'm not so sure that your apology is actually sincere at all, to be quite frank and honest. But how does that undo what you have actually done this morning? Oh, I'm waiting. I am waiting for Bobo now to write me a fucking letter yet again. Right? Now Blake is going to be emailing me. Don Seymour is going to be messaging me. And I'm sure Offroy will get a formal fucking complaint because of what transpired this morning. And then I'm the motherfucker who has to deal with the bullshit this morning. Caller, you guys are going to have to hold on. I'm the person who now has to deal with the bullshit of dealing with Bobo management. You allowed Johan to and now off-reg and whatever. I'm the person who has to deal with that when I have way too much fucking shit on my plate trying to do in this country. If you guys cannot respect the perimeters of the show, simply do not call the program. And so, yes, the same way that I had to block Carrie, now I will have to block Johan. And it's as simple as that. You can't, as Aunt Lottie would used to say, you can't hear, you can feel. Some of you have absolutely no sense whatsoever. Now, Elard Miles, you're in the comment section talking pure fuckeridge as usual. It's shocking about what looks like favoritism when yesterday before 9:30, Johan said the same curse word Carrie said while on air. What curse word would that have been? I'm pretty sure Johan, and I can't remember what I think he said shit or something yesterday. I can't remember exactly what word he said yesterday. But that's not the word that Carrie used, so I don't even know what the hell it is that you're talking about. But let me be very, very clear here, folks. Morning.
Good morning. Francine here from Stafford.
Okay, no problem. I'm letting you in.
All right, thank you.
Okay, dear, thanks. Let me be very, very clear, right? I'm not here. Poor Zeus wants to get into the studio. Let him in, Miss Stacy. I'm not here to play favorites with nobody. Johanna's going to get blocked now, just like what's her name did, right? You can't come on here on radio and use these words. I mean, I'm talking to 5-year-old children. Y'all don't seem like you can allow this to sink into your heads. It is very, very simple. And like I said, the worst part of it is I know that you guys know better, number one, and you have enough words in your vocabulary where for 2 hours out of the day, y'all can choose to just use proper words. Or if you can't control yourself, yeah, how about you simply don't call in during that time because you have no self-control. Wait until 9:30 when you can say whatever the fucking words you want to say. Caller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, probably not a safe time, but anyway, I'm going to ask you, please, for your own health, wellness, and perhaps sanity. Just please take a really, really deep breath and then exhale slowly. Okay? Sandra, I just want to say something. I'm not here defending anything. I understand the rules of your show. Long before you had a talk show and got on radio, I listened to talk shows. So I know the rules. And as you rightly say, it's not your rules, it's the rules you have to abide by. Although I am going to say that in general terms, dick is not profanity. So if they come after you about that word, I think you have two strong legs to stand on. Not taking away anything now that you have already expressed about it, right? So be that as it may, I'm going to say this, and I say this with no bias, no prejudice or anything. I think Johan got a bit frustrated because of the minister's very, very arrogant, defensive approach, okay? And that's not coming from me, that's coming from many. Maybe that's what kind of rubbed him the wrong way. But let me just say, I listen not to all of your show, but to some, and I heard a specific part, and it's not the first time that I've heard this minister say this. And this goes back to the FFR. Cayman did not fall into a hole back then because of any world events. Let us speak the truth. Let us be fair. Let us lay it at the feet of where it belongs. We fell into that at the time because
Miss Brenda, can I just stop you there for a second? Okay. This segment, because I have to go here shortly. I do have a school event for my daughter. This segment really isn't into getting into. I'm having this specifically to address what Johan did. I'm not getting into anything else with the minister. We can pick that up on Monday's show if you would like.
Okay, so I'm not asking you to go back and rehash it. If I could finish what I'm saying, please, because I think that needs to be corrected. You have access to those records. You can also request the Hansards. I find it rather disturbing that this is being told. A lot of your listeners don't even know what the truth is. But England did not implement that FFR on us because of any world events. It was because of bad management of the country's money. That is why that was implemented. That's the state that we were in, and then it changed after the 2013 elections. The budget was then balanced. The country had a surplus. I think late 2015, early 2016. We all know that. I'm not going to go back in time to say what I heard with my own two ears being said about that and about what they thought of the person and all that kind of stuff. All I'm saying is when any minister, and I don't care who the minister is, comes to speak to the people, let's be very factual. Not all people listen to, the proceedings in the House. Most people just listen to you. And, I'm going to take the word out. Most people listen to you. Those who listen to you, they don't really listen to anyone else. So whatever is said on your show by whomever says it, they assume that's a fact, which is a dangerous thing because they're not listening anywhere else, and especially not to the proceeds in the House. So me as a person, and like I said, I'm not defending Johan in any way. Johan can attest to this. Johan and I are not friends. Johan and I had an exchange of very unpleasant words once upon a time also. He can tell you that, but that's behind us, at least for me. And, if he wants to speak to me, he speaks to me, and that's fine. But he's not my friend. So that's not why I'm saying what I'm saying. I'm just saying the word he used this morning, I do not think rises to the level of the radio station putting you in any trouble. And if they do, then I am saying publicly, they would be very unfair to you. That word is used in many, I would say, definitions. And you have people that are even called Dick. That's the short name for Richard. So if someone named Dick called into your show and you call the person Dick, are they going to penalize you for that also? Because they don't realize that's the person's name? Please understand, I do understand your frustration. I do understand, like you just said, people report your show. Maybe they don't realize after 9:30, you're not on radio and you're free to say whatever you want to say. I would say that's being, very malicious.
All right. Thank you, my dear. Would you have another caller? I appreciate it.
Calm down. It's a long weekend. Just enjoy your weekend.
Thank
okay?
you.
Don't
Thank you.
end it. No, please.
All right. Thank you. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Sandy. I haven't called in a long time.
Oh my gosh, have we missed you? Good morning.
But I'm going to have to sue you for being addicted to the Mall Road. First thing in the morning, I listen to you. Last thing at night.
Oh no.
But coming back to Moxham, Johanna, whatever his name is, a lot of people know that the word is not obscenity or whatever it is, but it's derogatory the way that he expressed himself about Rolston. And I think that Rolston did a very good show this morning. And, I'm West Bay North, and I voted for him. Mm-hmm. And I'll do it in the next upcoming election. I haven't seen Rolston since the election. I've seen him a couple of times. He says hi. But the man do not have to come up to everybody's door that voted for him. That's not what he's there for. We voted him to better this country and lead us down a path for the future, not what's in you like a person or not. So these are the things that my father told me. One of the biggest lies that you can tell is not taking responsibility for your action. Because if you don't take responsibility for your action, you're lying to yourself. Who can you be an honest person to? And that goes to Johanna or Moxham, whatever. Mm-hmm. Anyway, you have a right to speak out. You know that there's a board that's controlling what can be said on this, and yet these people will come and push the issue. That is wrong, man. Joanne, if you are listening, you can call me at 916-0754 and tell me off. I don't care. But you were wrong this morning. You have to admit it and say, I am sorry. Sincerely say you're sorry. You said you're sorry, but that was like water on a duck's back. Mm-hmm. It is wrong.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dexter.
Keep up the good work.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And I'm not going to sue you.
Have a good, safe weekend.
Okay, have a good day.
And it's good to hear your voice. We did miss hearing from you.
Yeah, I got a couple more jokes, but I'll leave them for later.
Oh goodness, thank you, my dear. So listen, folks, it's very, it's not what I think is a profanity word. I'm not the rule maker. You see, this is a thing that y'all have to understand. I'm not the rule maker. I am very, very cognizant of how this works. And there are a lot of people who would be more than happy to not see CMR radio come to fruition. When I think, next month, CMR is going to be celebrating 9 years. Look at us. Look at where we have come in 9 years. What we have been able to accomplish if you don't appreciate, and I suspect that a lot of people don't, right? You see the website, you see the show, you see certain elements of it, but you don't know the long nights. You don't know the money spent, my money, out of my own account, out of my own pocket, right? The many years at CMR, we weren't even trying to make $1. We never monetized this platform because it was never about that. The hard work and the sacrifice that people put in to something that they're genuinely passionate about. And to make someone else come for whatever reasons they may have in their heads that they try to justify and jeopardize that, mess that up for you, prevent you from going to the next level. It ain't gonna happen. Not on my watch. If I have to block some of you 50 times from the platform, that's exactly what is going to happen. I want to be crystal clear. And it has nothing to do with whether we're friends or not. You are not going to mess up all the other content creators out there who are working super hard to have their shows, and they're looking forward to having their shows on radio where you guys can tune in and listen to them as well. There's a lot of fucking work that goes into this. And some of you are just disrespectful. You don't care. You're narcissists. You're self-centered. And you all are the true fucking hypocrites. Don't come on my show and call me a hypocrite, call the minister a dick while we're on radio, and think that this is gonna fly. Some people have no respect for nobody or anything, and it shows. Okay? Anthony, I saw you showed up late to class today. Last week, Friday around this time, Anthony was commenting, oh my God, Sandy, I don't know how you got WORC on here to talk about the immigration reform. You got Mr. Wesley Howard, blah, blah, blah. We couldn't get the actual minister, but do you know how much work that fucking took to get them on this program? You guys don't have a clue what's happening behind the scenes. And at the very minimum, when guests come on the show, whether it's CUC, whether it is government ministers, right? We have to be able to respect those individuals whilst they are here. Respect doesn't mean agreement. Respect doesn't mean that you're not calling them to account. Just as I did this morning, hold on a second, minister. I know that if Renee wrote that story and she put that in quotations, she's not getting that quote from nobody else. That has to be a source for that to be in the quotes. So what did I do? I went back to the system where we transcribe these meetings. And I keyword searched for it in real time and said, no, minister, you did say XYZ. I don't have to be disrespectful to the minister to hold him accountable. Because what you guys don't realize is the same reason that we can have a minister, Miles, get on the program and say, no, I refuse to come on your show because of how you allow your audience to do. That is a fucking prime example today of exactly where Minister Miles is actually correct. And if I don't check people like Johan, if I don't check people like Carrie, that is where the ministers will sit back and say, no. We can't trust going on a show where we're going to sit back and be called names. People can call us a dick and call, no. Some of you, and I have to really wonder, yes, Carrie, I'm cursing now because it is after 9:30 in the morning. Facebook don't give two shits if you're cursing, as you well know, on your platform. You're missing the point. Did I not say that this is a Find Out and Fuck Around Friday segment? Featuring Johan Moxham. Johan, you have got to rein it in sometimes in life and check yourself. And I say this as both a talk show host wearing that hat and also as someone who is your friend. You don't know sometimes when to rein it in. This person had the following to say. They said, regardless if it was after 9:30 a.m., Johan just lost his fucking mind. They said that's at 8:54. Like, bro, Sandy, don't make that man make you frig up your hard work and progress. I'm so disappointed in him. Like, stand on how you feel, but be respectful, man. Girl, along the way of growing and achieving your goals, you're going to lose friends and bonds, going to break. And he clearly didn't care about you or what you're striving for / fighting for to say such madness on air, especially to make the minister feel you set him up to be called out on air. Sigh. Here's another one. Let me take off the Ministry Matters background because obviously that's not the segment that we're having right now. Good morning. I'm sorry that you were placed in that awkward position just now by Johan. This is why he wasn't elected. He's been such an angry person from high school. Thank you for standing your ground, as I'm sure it's tough being he's your friend. Thank you. Good morning. Johan is a dick. End of story. And he wonders why he never got himself elected in Georgetown. In any game you play in life, there are rules. Know them, respect them, and don't break them. So we're prosecuting people for misspeaking or having a different opinion or changing their views, their point of views. Johan should know a dick because he's the biggest one. Bro, as that person said, bro, read the room, right? Why were you so flustered? You're having a discussion with the minister. And you yourself, right? You're the one who's losing control. You didn't make the minister look bad today, not at all. You made yourself look bad. In that moment, you lost total control that you couldn't find an alternative thing to say to the minister? Seriously? Oh my God. It's just, quite frankly, unbelievable. I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed in Johan, shaking my head. He knows what you're trying to accomplish, and he does that. All respect for him is now gone. Sad, sad day. He has no clue the impact this platform has with your content creators whom you've given us an opportunity free. He has no clue, or he doesn't care about anything or anyone other than himself. And quite frankly, this statement here is the only conclusion that I can come to. Johan just doesn't care. And so there is an element of this that even as someone who is his friend, I mean, we have to have an after the show conversation. Because you put me in a position that I now also have to question even the friendship. Because you don't do this kind of shit on a regular to people, much less people that you really call your friend. You know what I'm saying? You all understand where I'm coming from? I would never put my friend in this sort of position. And so, Johan, what kind of friendship really is this? So here comes Nightlife, fake account. Sounds like you're on the government payroll. You wouldn't say the same thing if it was the PPM government. Yeah, okay. Whatever you say. Y'all just don't make no damn sense. Since when? And oh, Johan said nothing wrong. Since when have I ever allowed anybody, regardless of who they were, to come on this show and be called a dick on radio by one of my listeners to the program? Under no circumstances. That's finite life. You're entitled to your opinion. You can think that he did nothing wrong. The last time I checked, you're not the CEO or director of Offreg, are you? Last time I checked, you're not Don Seymour and you don't own DMS. So like I said, none of you, including Johan, will have to deal with the consequences of what he did today. I'm the one who's going to have to fucking do it. And what does that have to do with PPM, UDP, PMP, PFRF? Give a shit. Nothing. It has nothing to do with any of them. None of them have to face the consequences. I'm the one who has to deal with it. Oh, okay. So now this is going to be, oh, PPM weren't paying you. Try and shut the fuck up because you don't even know what you're talking about. Shut up. I turned down PPM money. Go and get your fucking facts this morning. Go ask PPM what happened the election before last. When they had, what's his name again? Oh Lord, what a crackhead boy name again? Oh God. Espute. When they had Andre Espute calling me, offering me a cash payment, and I said, no, thank you. Go get your facts straight. Y'all are absolutely ridiculous. Unbelievable. I am very, very disappointed here today. And a half-ass apology isn't going to cut it. This has nothing to do. I see Allard talking about, oh, yeah, who was that about? Oh, you blocked Jonathan for this and you blocked Jonathan for that and blah, blah, blah. Well, yes, because of the lack of disrespect. And I have, if I had to be fair about it, I have tolerated quite a bit from some of you, more than I should have. Some of y'all should have been blocked a long time ago. And so unfortunately now Johan has put me in a position where I have to be fair and impartial. He used a word earlier this week. I can't even remember what the word was, but I think it was shit or something like that. And I had to warn him. Now you're out of warnings. Now you can't call back on the show again. That's your loss. Lady D says, bottom line, if someone have the need to be disrespectful to minister, then let them do it on their own time and say it face to face with them. Jess says, I'm not defending CMR and I'm not trunking Johan, but I'm saying the context it was used, it was questionable, and that's my opinion, and it was really not necessary. KY Forever says that part, Sandy. Sandy ATP, you know who for you and you know who ain't for you and who ain't, I think should be removed and blocked to protect your suggestion that you made in life. And sadly, I don't like blocking people, right? I think that the discourse that we have on this program is lively. We have varying opinions. The differences in opinions are good. What makes this platform what it is. But if you can't do that even in a semi-respectful manner, right? Then you are jeopardizing every single thing that we have here. Allard says, Johan did the same of disrespecting your paid guest that Jonathan did, but you only blocked Jonathan. Well, Johan just did it this morning, and I'm telling you now that he'll get blocked. Does Johan or anyone in his family provide information, insight, access to DART? What the hell are you talking about? Or anything else of value that gives Johan favoritism or protection from consequences. There's no protection from consequences. I don't even know, Allard, I don't even know what you're talking about. Access to DART? Johan has access to DART? Okay. I don't know what you're talking about, but nobody in life gets away without consequences. And so naturally, there will be consequences. KY Forever says, Sandy, like you said in your own quotes, if a person shows you who they are, let them. I mean, he is literally a crackhead, Marshall. I hope that wasn't taken out. Well, you say, let's see what the next election will look like. Nightlife, go talk to Joey Hugh. Because what I will tell you is in this last election that we just had, nobody was asking them to advertise, but to be clear, I had a conversation with Mr. Hugh, and there's a lot that happened in that conversation. I can't tell you, but what I can tell you is Mr. Hugh said to me, we would like, PPM would like to work with you, but Barbara, what Barbara last name is? Barbara Conley is really hurt about how you've talked about her in the past. So, you know, we have to support Barbara because she's been one of our hardcore members, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, I'm like, I didn't ask you to advertise, so we good. You can protect her all you want. That has nothing to do with you getting your messaging out there. That has nothing to do with me. So you can talk all you want, Nightlife. How do these people, Nightlife has never even been on the show before, but all of a sudden jumping on here, defending Fuckridge and coming with illogical conversations. You created this environment, remember? Let me just hit that block button. Nightlife, take block. You know, like how some of y'all be taking the D word. I'm going to tell you now to take block, okay? Let me just hit the block button. Ban user. There you go. Okay. Because you just here to stir the pot and you're not even making any damn sense. Lewis says it's not what you say, it's how you say it. In this case, it's a little bit of both, I think. Right? KY Forever says Nightlife is probably Johan. Anthony says, I absolutely agree with you on your points made, Sandy. You invite callers here for real conversation, not to talk over people or dismiss other viewpoints out of hand. If they want to challenge an idea, bring the facts and keep it respectful. That's how we actually get somewhere on your show. Anything less just derails the discussion for everyone listening. Y'all gotta do better. They really said PPM, laughing. They clearly don't listen to your show. Is he blocked from brownies too? What did I miss? Go Mout. I told you to block him the other morning. It is funny because this person did say to block your hand the other day. Can I please get his brownies then? I never had any yet. Aw, I'll make you some. Somebody already got dibs on the brownies. I mean, I don't know what else to say here. You know, I was just very, very disappointed. All right, so we will block him from calling into the program. Someone was asking for Carrie to be blocked from the comment section as well. We've not done that yet. So right now, Carrie has a partial block in place, so she can still comment. But someone did send me a message this morning saying, can we please block her? You know, and again, I know sometimes she's going off in the comment section, but I really, for me, it is a very, very serious decision. See this person here requesting for her to be blocked. It is a very, very serious decision to block someone completely from the platform. Johan will be blocked from calling into the show. It's as simple as that. Oh, Carrie would like some sugar-free brownies. Sandy, don't let name calling ruin what was a thoroughly interesting show. I love the interview and don't want the negative to overshadow what was a great show today. It is really, really unfortunate. Anthony says, I was here just like you. I'm sure you heard what we all heard. Did you hear something I didn't? I'm not sure who you're talking to, Anthony, but Johan still here says, keep your dry up brownies, but I'll get my batch this week. I'll come get my batch. You want to come get a bitch lick upside your head is what you want to come and get. That what you look like you need. Marshall says it looks like they want your hand blocked from everything, even the brownies, right? El Rey says, boy, CMR laying more blocks than flowers today. I mean, my God, I would really rather not have to. Y'all got to do better. Y'all have got to do better. You know, even the fact that guests can feel comfortable coming on the show. We can't let them think that, oh, I'm going to come on Sandy's show and she's going to allow people to disrespect me. Right? Regardless of who they are. And let me be very, very clear. Asking people honest, salient questions or saying, you know what? Yes, you're being duplicitous. Yes, I think that this is hypocritical behavior or what you're saying makes you a hypocrite. That is different. There are ways that you can bring your points across without disrespecting people. And the fact that you have grown adults in their big time 50s who don't seem to be able to accomplish that, my God, it is no wonder that our young people can't even communicate their differences with themselves and trying to beat each other up in the schools. Because what they do is what they're learning from us. Miss Anita says, how long do blocks last for individuals? They're a permanent block. Carrie says, block away. It does not bother me. I get 500 views when I go live. Good. You mean 500 views in total compared to 17,000 on this platform some days? Okay. What a mess. Y'all gotta do better. So yes, that's why I don't take the decision lightly, Miss Anita, because it is a lifelong block. Whatever did happen to the ganja boy, I don't remember his name. Is he still blocked? He's still over Radio Cayman, being Sterling, not there. I have no clue. What's his name? Oh God, I can't even remember. We've forgotten all about him. But yep, I guess he's still calling somebody, just not me. Maybe he's calling Carrie. Carrie, does he call your show? I need to brush out my hair properly today. It looks like a hot mess. Maybe he calls on Carrie's show. Listen, the rules are what they are. I'm going to ask you in as nice a way as I can again. You guys know the rules, especially from 7:30 to 9:30. After that, we can use profanity. I'm not averse to it. But Alejandro, there we go. Poor Alejandro. But if you can't play by the rules, then don't call the show. Because then you force me to be put in this position where I will block you from calling the program. And don't try calling from any alternate numbers because those will get blocked as well. Lady D says, Sandy, don't beat yourself up. A quick slip of their tongue is not your fault, but that's not what that was at all. Let's be very, very clear. That's not a slip of the tongue. That was very well thought out. You do take the necessary step and disconnect their calls. Stay strong because mutual respect is due all around. And you see, I think that really you guys don't understand, like I said, what happens on the back end, right? When I actually need to then, here comes the email from DMS. Here comes the email from Blake. Here comes the email from, picking up the phone. Oh, we need to have a conversation. You need to come and see us. Do you guys know right now, because of what Johan did this morning, DMS could very well call me today and say that as of Tuesday, because Monday's a holiday, as of Tuesday, we're no longer going to allow your show to be on Bobo. This is the real world implications. This is why I'm pissed off, right? Because his behavior and his lack of being able to control himself has real life consequences for me. You understand? For you as listeners and people who appreciate having the option of listening to this on Bobo. Like I said, don't make any qualms about it. Johan is in the radio business himself. Star 92.7 is their family station. So he knows you're the morning show. If someone did that with, who's that over there? Renegade. That would not be permitted to fly. So from that position, knowing that he's actually in the industry, in the business, this makes it even that more egregious. His family is a license holder, right? This other person says he's always insulting you on your show, so he get what he get. And I have been extreme. I mean, listen, I have had people in the past say, what is it with Johan? He comes across as a Spanish machete. And they have questioned the things that he has said and how he says it on the show. And they do find Johan to be very disrespectful. And Johan knows that I've had conversations with him off air. And I'm like, Johan, this is a joke. You might think it's a joke, but people are listening, don't get your sense of humor. They don't understand you. They may not even understand the dynamics of our relationship. But people have even questioned me like, why Johan be talking about you his side piece, huh? And I was like, you know how disrespectful stuff like that comes across, not just to me and my platform, but even to my husband and my friends that are listening to this show, because they know I wouldn't be checking Johan under no circumstances. So he's had it coming for a while. I'm not going to feel sorry for him in this moment. Good morning, caller.
Morning, Auntie Sandy. Auntie Sandy, you said that he has his own radio station and everything?
Yeah, his family owns Star 92.7.
So why he don't go with that same out on his that he have on yours on his?
Because they would be blocked by off-reg. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they actually have a radio.
Exactly. So that's not fair. That's not right. Because at this point, if he's a holder and he's a businessman of a radio station himself, why does he feel the need to be? Why does he feel that it's okay to run that type of profanity on your show and not his?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't. Point, yeah. Mm-hmm.
At this point, it sounds like he's being vindictive and he's trying to mess you successful up.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people questioning it.
Because if you call him as a best friend, I'll be damned if I had a best friend.
No. Nobody used that term. Nobody said best friend, but even a friend. Even a friend. Yeah, even a friend. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to mess things up for my friend or somebody that I claim as a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a bit shocking because I had to call in and say that because if he's a business holder of a radio station, Why he don't hire the most Jamaican with the most profanity mouth and see what he get? Just to use for an example. You understand what I'm saying? How he would like it. I bet you the government was revoked his license from they start opening him out. I mean, they grow, they have children, they have to realize they have at some point have to have responsibility for what comes out their mouth.
Yeah. Thank you so much, caller. It is definitely. I appreciate it.
That's very shocking that you say that he's a holder. That's not right.
Yeah, and he says that factually incorrect about his involvement with Star 92.7. Well, his family owns the station. Let me be very, very clear. As someone who's sat on these regulatory entities before, Johan is in a much better position to actually know, what the real position is.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Yep.
He needs to be whole for his example, Tante Sandy, and I think you need to realize who's for you and who's not for you.
Thank you, my
because
dear.
At that point, they can put a blockage to your success, and that's not fair. But all right, Auntie Sandy, love you and hope you have a good day.
Thank you so much. You guys have a good weekend. We didn't know Johan's family was in the radio business, so this is bringing Bringing Adija Palmer. Who the hell is Adija Palmer? His father, Renard Moxham, is the majority owner in Star 92.7, along with Renegade. So Renegade is the face of the station, but the real owner is Mr. Moxham himself. And I know the children at one point, he's saying that I'm factually incorrect about his involvement. At one point, they were very, very involved in the station. If that has changed, then, it is what it is, but it's still a family business. Your daddy owned the station. I'm just saying. Lady D says, here's my suggestion. Take no calls before 9:30 since some people can't be respectful and control themselves. Protect what you're doing because we, the people, need you. But isn't that sad that we have to do all of that? Everybody else now has to suffer no calls during the show because one or two people, because it's not the majority of people that are being disrespectful, but it's one or two people being disrespectful. So I don't think that's fair to everybody else, Lady D. Palmer is cartel. Oh. Okay. Oh, well, no. Okay, I see what you're saying, Anthony. No, I don't think it's the station that's bringing cartel. Renegade has a separate business, which is as a promoter. And as far as I know, it's that promotion business that's bringing in cartel. Sorry, I didn't know. I'm like, who the hell is Adija Palmer? That's cartel's real name. No, that's a separate thing. So that's not the station that's actually doing that. No. Oh, good. So Alejandra's on your show. The good news is you can now have Johan calling in during your show as well. So I'll give you all the people that I block. You guys can go over to Carrie's show and certainly call her during the program. Soka, good morning. Implement a permanent block after 24 hours to think about it, not in a moment of aggravation. A temporary block right away to make the moment better. No, when you block, you block. You can take block, and that can be the end of that. I ain't got no time to be blocking people and unblocking people. When I hit that feature on the phone, that's it. And I'm about to do that right now because by tomorrow I'll forget that I didn't block him. So let me just go in now. And because you got to go into all kind of settings. And on this phone, we're going to hit block contact. You will not receive any phone calls, messages, emails, FaceTime, or calls from block contacts. Yes, we're going to block Johan Moxham. All right. That's it. You're welcome, honey child. I'll send all the rejects over to you, Carrie. Don't worry. No, it's not, but you can't let what you work for so hard be. No. They're not gonna be messing nothing up. They're gonna just take a block. And it's as simple as that. Now, for the time being, Johan is not blocked in the comment section. Hopefully he can, behave himself there. You see the difference with the comments, right? Is we can just scroll past your comment. Or even if I put up on the screen and then as I'm reading it, I see you going on like a proper fool, I can stop reading it and pull your comment down. That's not the same, and that doesn't necessarily make it on the radio station for off-reg to hear and whatever. Actually calling in on the station is a very, very different situation. Simple as that. Monday is a holiday. So what's Monday's date? Monday is let me just see here now. I got to go as well. I got school. I got to put on my mommy hat and go do some stuff for my daughter. I see her dad calling me, and I'm sure that's what he's calling me about, honey child, because he not business with none of y'all. He only wants to be the best parents ever. So the 18th is Monday. So we'll see you guys on Tuesday, the 19th. Please enjoy your holiday weekend and be safe out there on Cayman's roadways. And I hope that you guys have a pleasant weekend. Discovery Day, yes. Monday's Carrie's birthday. Oh, they put on a holiday just for you, girl. Look at that. Speaking about the Court of Arms, Sandy, we'll have to get to that, the anniversary. Yes, we just celebrated. Thank you, Anthony. We just celebrated. Yesterday was the 68th anniversary of the Cayman Islands Coat of Arms. So, of course, that is part and parcel of our identity, our flag. And yeah, we will. I guess that's all I can really say about that. Hey. I have not forgotten. The order was placed and I'm picking it up here shortly. About to leave out. All right. Bye-bye. I tell y'all, that man not bothered with none of y'all and your foolishness. His priority is his child, honey child, and his family. All right. That's all I can say, folks. It's really disappointed that we had to have this segment today. It's disappointed that I had to block Johan, but he really left me no other choice. Lots of interesting stories on the feed. Please, keep informed about this. There's a story about the Maldives. The situation in Cuba is looking really, really dire. They've actually officially run out of fuel. I'm waiting to see how Cayman Airways now might have to cancel flights going into Cuba, although the U.S., as I guess a gesture of, I don't know what, yesterday gave them $100 million in humanitarian aid. Why not just stop blocking them? Like, that's just stupid. You're giving them $100 million in humanitarian aid, but you're the cause of why they're in the position that they're in? Have it make sense. It don't make no damn sense. We haven't had a Trump day in a while, as his supporters say, TDS. So we might have to pick that up one day next week because, again, his behavior. His behavior is just absolutely shocking. Okay. All right, folks, please have, again, yourselves a wonderful weekend, and we will see you guys on Tuesday morning. Until then, take care.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.